Chapter 117. Su Hao's intentions. He removed his battle armor and donned a black robe with embroidered cloud patterns. Tall, handsome, and full of charisma, he caught the attention of the young ladies on the street, causing them to pause and cast flirtatious glances. Intentionally, Su Yingxue blocked his path. "Brother, why bring so many gifts just to visit me?" Su Hao carried a jewelry box in his hand and a bundle in his arms, emitting a rosy fragrance. With a hint of apology in his smile, he said, "I rushed over from the military camp today and didn't have time to bring you a gift. If you want something, just let Xu Yang know. I'll make sure to bring it next time." Su Yingxue sighed softly, pretending to be jealous. "All of these are for Sister Jinyang. I didn't get anything." Su Hao wanted to rub her head, but his hands were full of things. He could only promise, "What do you want? I'll bring it to you next time." This time, it was too rushed. "These are all for Yang's reference. Since she's managing a shop now, I need to get her things for reference." "Brother, is this just for reference? One suspect you visited every cosmetics store in Jiangdu City." Su Yingxue teased, looking at his abundance of items. Su Hao mentioned that he came from the military camp late, yet his dusty appearance didn't match his claimed origin. Seeing Su Hao struggling to respond, Su Yingxue playfully pushed him toward the stairs. "All right, brother, go. If one wants something, I won't hold back next time." Su Hao turned back, flashing a smile before carrying his load to find Wu Jinyang. Su Yingxue leaned against the door and watched Su Hao go upstairs. At this moment, Jilan also came down after bringing medicine to Wu Jinyang. She approached Su Yingxue with an envious expression. "Miss, eldest young master is so good to Miss Jinyang." Miss Wu was shocked by the makeup and jewelry he brought. She didn't expect eldest young master to be so proactive and attentive. Su Yingxue smiled knowingly. "Brother isn't a libertine. Has always been attentive and caring towards loved ones." Even though he cared for Wu Jinyang, Su Yingxue knew she'd always have a place in his heart. "Miss, you have someone caring for you just like eldest young master. Moreover, the 9th prince." "Silly girl, what are you saying?" Su Yingxue covered her mouth and gave Jilan a warning look before leading her back to the treatment room. Jilan smirked. "One didn't even finish speaking, and you're already getting nervous. Clearly, you understand that your highness treats you well." "He treats me normally," Su Yingxue replied, her face cool. Chu Yihan had countless beautiful women around him, so there might be women around him with some connection. Jilan saw her indifference and grew more anxious. "Miss, please don't say that. The 9th prince hasn't married for years and avoids women. It's widely known. But when he looks at you, his eyes are gentle. It's something I've never seen before. His gaze." "You might be mistaken," Su Yingxue said, focusing on her medical book. "Then there's one more thing that can't be wrong." Jilan blinked her clear and bright eyes. "What are you implying?" "Your highness genuinely cares about you." Jilan's gaze was resolute. "One never imagined I could enter the 9th prince's mansion to meet him and be treated as an esteemed guest. When I brought medicine for Miss Your Highness, his expression was always joyful." Chapter 118. A graceful old demon. "I went to the prince's mansion to deliver medicine to Your Highness on behalf of Miss. Every time Your Highness received the medicine, his expression was exceedingly joyful. He couldn't help but inquire about the Miss condition, whether she was doing well or not, and even asked if there was anything she lacked. If it weren't for his sincerity, given Your Highness status, why would he bother like this?" Su Yingxue's gaze became somewhat uneasy. "That's just Your Highness being courteous. After all, concocting medicine for his injuries does have some benefits. Miss, don't be disingenuous. Could it be that you truly don't like Your Highness? In our great Cheng dynasty, many women hold admiration for Your Highness and harbor dreams of marrying him. Your Highness has only eyes for you." Jilan looked at Su Yingxue with eager eyes. She hoped to catch a glimpse of concern on Su Yingxue's face. However, after observing for a while, Su Yingxue's expression remained cold. Su Yingxue calmly said, "That's enough, let's not mention this again. You may leave now." Jilan hesitated, but she sensed from Su Yingxue's demeanor that if she continued, Su Yingxue would become angry. Jilan quietly withdrew. Su Yingxue held her mother's medical book in her hand, yet her mind was filled with thoughts of Chu Yihan. TSK, he truly was a vexing old demon. In the capital prefecture, Liang Jin was preparing to open court for a trial when a subordinate suddenly reported that the 9th prince had arrived. Liang Jin hastily set aside his tasks, tidied his attire, and proceeded to the inner hall to pay his respects to Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan, draped in a purple-gold python robe, sat composedly on the grand chair, exuding an inexplicable pressure. The air within the entire inner hall seemed to thin out. Liang Jin knelt down and respectfully inquired, "I wonder why your highness has graced us with your presence." Chu Yihan wasn't someone who would casually visit capital prefecture for amusement. Holding Su Yingxue's jade pendant, Chu Yihan's tone was composed, yet it carried a powerful weight. "I have specific instructions regarding Su Yingxue's case. Pay close attention." Liang Jin bowed his head, saying, "Your Highness, please give your orders. No matter the crime Su Yingxue may have committed, no matter her transgressions, one will not allow anyone to harm her even a hair's breadth." Chu Yihan's gaze fixed on him, akin to a newly unsheathed blade, radiating its sharpness. Liang Jin's heart trembled involuntarily. However, he couldn't deceive Chu Yihan. "Your Highness, based on my investigation, Su Yingxue did indeed injure Wu Hongtao. One beg your Highness forgiveness, but I cannot shield Miss Su. Whether you shield her or not is your affair. However, if you dare let Capital Prefecture's constables harm Su Yingxue, I wouldn't mind demolishing Capital Prefecture and reducing it to rubble once your verdict is delivered." Chu Yihan's thin lips casually uttered these words, appearing nonchalant, yet a trace of mischief lingered in his eyes. But to Liang Jin, this statement was like an enormous weight pressing on his chest. He would never shield Su Yingxue. The crime must be met with punishment. Yet, Chu Yihan's words suggested the potential demolition of Capital Prefecture. Liang Jin closed his eyes. He understood that Chu Yihan had never made empty threats. In Capital Prefecture, outside the courtroom, a crowd of onlookers had gathered. Although they came to witness the spectacle, they remained silent, not daring to utter a sound. Holding an account book, Su Yingxue stood in the defendant's spot. Opposite her, Wu Hongtao stood with the support of a crutch. His injuries hadn't fully healed. His face was pale, and even standing was a struggle, causing sweat to bead on his forehead. Nevertheless, he persisted in attending the trial. Su Yingxue chuckled inwardly. Just how deep was his animosity towards her, to summon such strong determination to confront her in court? Chapter 119, Trial 1. Wu Hongtao happened to look directly at her, his eyes brimming with hatred, resembling a fierce beast that longed to devour Su Yingxue in one gulp. Su Yingxue shrugged her shoulders, nonchalant as ever. It was as if she was not standing in the proper and solemn court but was sunbathing in her backyard. Wu Hongtao already hated Su Yingxue to the point that his teeth itched. One of his daughters had broken limbs and was recuperating at home. When he heard that his two sons' careers were ruined, he was so angry that he spat out blood. He was almost angered to death. Today, he was determined not to spare this wretched Su Yingxue. Silence. Liang Jin sat in a commanding position, dressed in official attire, exuding seriousness. Despite the pressure from Chu Yihan, he remained solemn and fair. Today, there is a case of Wu Hongtao suing Su Yingxue. 1. As the presiding official, am convening this court session. Are both the plaintiff, Wu Hongtao, and the defendant, Su Yingxue, present? Liang Jin's tone was authoritative. Wu Hongtao, with an agitated demeanor, declared, "Lord Liang, 1 a.m. here." "Su Yingxue is present," Su Yingxue responded calmly. "Su Yingxue, Wu Hongtao accuses you of trespassing into his residence, injuring his daughter, as well as condoning your subordinates to harm his family members and servants, and damaging his property. Do you admit to these charges?" Liang Jin's voice grew stern as he posed his question. Su Yingxue nodded and answered, replying to Lord Wu, "I do not admit to these charges. I merely went to visit a friend and coincidentally encountered Lord Wu's daughter. One intervened when one saw she was abusing someone, and one saved her with no intention of harming her life." Contrary to Lord Wu's claims, one did not damage his property or permit any indiscriminate harm by my subordinates. Nonsense. My daughter is gentle and well-behaved. How could she attempt to take someone's life? Your words are nothing but fabrications. You not only injured my daughter but also left her with broken limbs. Wu Hongtao, agitated, pounded his cane on the ground, producing resounding thuds. The onlookers outside began to murmur amongst themselves. Liang Jin slammed his gavel, demanding an order: silence. Call forth the witnesses. Before long, several of Wu Hongtao's servants and Wu Ruofei appeared in the courtroom. Wu Ruofei appeared even more severely injured, bearing unexplained marks all over her body. Though she seemed unable to speak, her eyes bore a venomous hatred for Su Yingxue, fixating on her as if wishing to tear her apart and consume her whole. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows slightly, wondering how she had incurred such injuries. As the servants gave their statements, Su Yingxue turned her gaze toward Madame Wu, who was seated on the side of the courtroom. Though still exuding an air of elegance, her complexion appeared pallid, and wrinkles around her eyes were more pronounced. Upon catching Su Yingxue's gaze, their eyes locked in the air, akin to a venomous snake concealed within a shadowy cave, hissing its toxic intent toward her. In an instant, Su Yingxue grasped the situation. Madame Wu had been driven to desperation and resorted to ruthless measures. The more severe the injuries inflicted on Wu Ruofei, the harsher Liang Jin's verdict would be when determining Su Yingxue's punishment. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. A woman's heart was the most vicious. They had doted on Wu Ruofei since they were young, but now, in order to avenge their two sons, they had made Wu Ruofei into such a state. Su Yingxue looked at Wu Ruofei's tearful face and felt that she deserved it. When she tortured and killed Wu Jinyang, did she think that this day would come for her? While Su Yingxue was lost in thought, the servants had finished their testimonies. Liang Jin's brow furrowed upon hearing them, and he grew increasingly displeased with Su Yingxue, especially upon witnessing Wu Ruofei's injuries. If this were an ordinary case, he would surely have ordered Su Yingxue to jail and flogging. Yet, Liang Jin remained committed to seeing the case through to its end. Su Yingxue, given the presence of witnesses and physical evidence, and the extent of Wu Ruofei's injuries, your guilt is undeniable. I shall now deliver my verdict. Chapter 120, Trial, 2, Wait, Lord Liang, one wish to present my defense. Su Yingxue stepped towards Wu Ruofei. Liang Jin maintained a stern expression, saying, Go on. When I witnessed Wu Ruofei killing Wu Jinyang, I did engage in a confrontation with her, but she was not injured to this extent. It might be better to let her speak about the situation at that time. Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow and glanced at Wu Ruofei. Wu Ruofei opened her mouth and began speaking in an incomprehensible foreign language. Liang Jin noticed the issue and questioned, What is happening? Wu Ruofei, speak clearly. Wu Ruofei struggled to open her mouth. She managed to produce breath but couldn't utter anything understandable. Liang Jin promptly called for a doctor. Madame Wu hurriedly explained, Lord Liang, the doctor said that Ruofei suffered a significant emotional shock, affecting her ability to speak properly. On the day her limbs were broken, she was in excruciating pain. She is a young girl who has been traumatized by her injuries, which has led to her current state. As parents, we wish we could take her place. Our poor daughter is truly innocent. As Madame Wu spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. A mother who loved her children but felt powerless, that's what she looked like. Many of the commoners outside the courtroom were parents themselves. Seeing Madame Wu's distress, they expressed their sympathy. This is too much. How could she be so brutal? Absolutely. Which parent doesn't dote on their daughter? Look at those injuries. Madame Wu's daughter is so pitiable. Hearing these comments, Su Yingxue couldn't help but think that Madame Wu's ruthlessness was proving to be quite effective. Liang Jin also felt a deep sense of regret, and his gaze toward Su Yingxue grew even more somber. Before he could raise his gavel, Su Yingxue spoke up, Lord Liang, I am a doctor. I can immediately cure Miss Wu and enable her to speak. Liang Jin recalled this possibility and agreed, very well, go ahead. Having Miss Wu provide her testimony in person would be ideal. With permission granted, Su Yingxue was about to attend to Wu Ruofei when Lord Wu suddenly lunged forward, exclaiming, "Stop! I will not allow you to touch my daughter. You shall not harm her again." A hint of guilt flickered in his eyes, revealing his complicity with Madame Wu in their actions against Wu Ruofei. Su Yingxue chuckled and said, "Lord Wu, are you attempting to challenge Lord Liang? We are all in the courtroom of the capital prefecture. Do you truly believe that I would dare to harm Miss Wu in Lord Liang's presence? Lord Liang has always been fair and just, and he would never shield me." Su Yingxue's words were directed toward Liang Jin. Upon hearing this, Liang Jin's anger flared, and he retorted, "Wu Hongtao, step back. I am well aware of Su Yingxue's medical skills. Should she dare to harm Wu Ruofei publicly, I will not let her escape justice. Lord Liang, this Su Yingxue is cunning and treacherous. Her methods are devious. Are you questioning my judgment?" Liang Jin's tone turned icy. Wu Hongtao felt as if he had bitten into a bitter gourd. Unable to voice his bitterness, he swallowed it down forcefully. Madame Wu was equally distressed. She had administered medicine to Wu Ruofei, temporarily impairing her ability to speak. She aimed to prevent Wu Ruofei from potentially causing further trouble with her words. If Su Yingxue were to cure her. Su Yingxue. Madame Wu ground her teeth, aching to tear her to pieces on the spot. Su Yingxue retrieved a silver needle, piercing it into the back of Wu Ruofei's neck. She delivered a firm slap to Wu Ruofei's back and then opened her mouth. After a short while, Wu Ruofei began to vomit. Chapter 121. Pleased after she finished vomiting, she immediately pointed at Su Yingxue and cursed, "Su Yingxue, you bitch, that hurt so much." Su Yingxue spread her hands innocently. "Everyone in the hall is a witness. One induced vomiting to help you speak." She turned to look at Liang Jin. "Lord Liang, Miss Wu can already speak." Liang Jin stroked his beard, his admiration for Su Yingxue's medical skills increasing further. "It's all because of you. Su Yingxue, it's all you do that I've ended up with this. My whole body hurts, I'm in so much pain." Sob, 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 Wu Ruofei cried heartrendingly. "I didn't cause your injuries. What's the use of yelling at me?" Su Yingxue retorted disdainfully. Wu Ruofei continued crying out. "If it weren't for you, why would my parents do this to me? Sob, sob, sob. My injuries weren't originally this severe. It's all because of you. You harmed my brothers, and that's why they hit me. That's why one ended up like this." Wu Hongtao hastily covered Wu Ruofei's mouth, his face turning red with anger. "You fool. What nonsense are you spouting?" Su Yingxue shrugged her shoulders. This was Wu Ruofei's nature. Her brain was merely a decoration. With a little enticement, she would reveal the truth on her own. "Ruofei, don't be so confused and blurt out nonsense. Your injuries were caused by Su Yingxue." Madame Wu sternly reminded her, her unyielding anger repeatedly tormenting her. How could she have raised such a foolish person? Not only was Wu Ruofei in so much pain, but she was also being scolded. She felt so wronged that she did not dare to speak again. However, Liang Jin had heard every word she said just now. He pointed angrily at Wu Hongtao. "Wu Hongtao, you even attacked your daughter and obstructed my trial. I will sentence you and your wife to 10 strokes. In being wronged, Lord Liang, it's all Su Yingxue's fault. She bewitched my daughter." Wu Hongtao trembled all over, his heart now filled with a desire to kill Su Yingxue. He had already endured numerous lashings, today he was enduring 10 more. This might just cost him his life. "Don't talk nonsense. Men, execute the punishment immediately." Liang Jin acted swiftly, instructing his officers to position Wu Hongtao and Madame Wu in the hall. Each received 10 lashes before the trial continued. After the lashings, Wu Hongtao could barely stand straight. Madame's blood-red eyes were still filled with hatred. "One don't believe it. I refuse to believe that Su Yingxue will escape punishment. The beating she was enduring now was bound to be repaid upon Su Yingxue." Wu Ruofei didn't expect that her random words would cause her parents to be beaten up. She watched them being beaten up and was stunned. After her parents were beaten up, she fainted from shock. Within the capital prefecture, there was no shortage of doctors. The doctors and the female bailiffs came to examine Wu Ruofei's injuries. After the examination, they confirmed that Wu Ruofei's limbs were broken and the injuries on her body were new. Although Wu Hongtao and his wife obstructed the integrity of the case, Su Yingxue, it is a fact that Wu Ruofei's limbs were broken. You caused this. Do you admit it? Liang Jin demanded sternly. Faced with this accusation, Su Yingxue knew that denying it would be futile. She nodded and said, indeed, one did break Miss Wu's limbs. In that moment of desperation, I injured her while trying to save Wu Jinyang. Chapter 122. A backhand slap no matter the circumstances, causing harm in public is wrong. Additionally, you previously assaulted Wu Hongtao on the street. Both these incidents have witnesses and evidence. Am I stating the facts correctly? Su Yingxue pursed her lips. No. Then I shall pronounce the sentence. You, Lord, please wait. A voice from outside the hall rang out. That was Wu Jinyan's voice. Su Yingxue frowned and glanced over. Sister Jinyang, I told you there was no need to come. I can handle the situation today. Wu Jinyang formally declared her identity and, being a witness, Liang Jin permitted her entry into the courtroom. She walked over to Su Yingxue's side and spoke gently. Your troubles were caused for my sake. How could I just stand by? Su Yingxue was unsure of how to respond. Originally, she was concerned about Wu Jinyan's feelings. After all, it was her father and family who were facing her in court today. Wu Jinyang stood with a dignified posture in front of Liang Jin. Lord, my presence is crucial in this case. Regarding the details of Su Yingxue's assault that day, I have something to say. Liang Jin maintained his impartiality. Please proceed. Wu Jinyang had also brought an elderly maid with her. This elderly maid had taken care of Wu Jinyang in the past and had been in the minister's estate for over a decade. However, her status was low. Every time she saw Wu Jinyang being bullied, she could only feel sorry for her, but she could not save her. Now, Wu Jinyang had brought her to speak the truth. On that day, Miss Jinyan's life hung by a thread. If not for Miss Su's timely intervention, Miss Ruofei would have tortured her Miss Jinyang to death. While Miss Su's actions were unintentional, Miss Ruofei refused to release Miss Jinyang, leading to a struggle. It was during this altercation that Miss Su accidentally injured Miss Ruofei. I have been served in the minister's estate for 20 years. Miss Jinyang has always lived a cautious life, which is why she has been able to grow to this day. She is pitiful. Miss Su did it to save her life. I hope that Lord will take into account Miss Su's eagerness to save others and sentence Miss Su lightly. The elderly maid kowtowed Liang Jin repeatedly, and Liang Jin suddenly felt emotional. Wu Hongtao regained some strength and stood up, proceeding to kick the elderly maid. You wretched slave. What use is there in keeping you? Get out of the minister's estate. And you, Wu Jinyang. Without hesitation, he slapped her forcefully, causing her to fall to the ground. I am your father. When have I mistreated you? Now, you've conspired with outsiders, harmed your sister, and even testified against your own father. You are an unfaithful and unfilial wretch. I don't have a daughter like you. Wu Hongtao, you're asking for trouble. Su Yingxue helped Wu Jinyang up, and a murderous look appeared in her eyes. Wu Hongtao trembled in fear, but before Liang Jin, he was not afraid that Su Yingxue would make a move. However, what truly terrified him was Wu Jinyang. Releasing Su Yingxue's hand, Wu Jinyang softly reassured her, I'm fine. Though Wu Jinyan's face was flushed red, it didn't diminish her elegant and refined beauty. She faced Wu Hongtao and straightened her back. Father, that slap just now severed all ties with the past. Wu Hongtao sneered, you're not even worthy to speak such words to me. Your mother was a prostitute back then. I took her in out of pity. And now, you're emulating her lowly ways, shamelessly seducing others. I should have, smack. Wu Jinyang backhandedly slapped Wu Hongtao across the face. The atmosphere immediately grew tense. Even in Su Yingxue's exquisitely beautiful eyes, there was an expression of disbelief. The usually gentle and cautious Wu Jinyang had struck her father. Chapter 123. The past is broken. There's no connection. It seemed as if he couldn't believe it and was slow to react. Only when he felt a searing pain on his face did Wu Hongtao realize that his daughter had just slapped him. You. He was so infuriated that he could not speak for a long time. Wu Jinyang stared at him, her voice unwavering. My mother was involved in prostitution, but she was born into a respectable family. It was only after she was abducted and brought here that she suffered. But what about you? You tormented her, brought her into this household, yet never once cared for her. She died at the age of 30, tears streamed down Wu Jinyang's resolute face as she continued, and after my mother passed away, how did you treat me? You never fulfilled the responsibilities of a husband or a father, but you did give me life and raise me. So, for all these years, regardless of the humiliations I endured from Madam and my sister, one never held any grudge against you as my father. However, do you deserve to be called father by me again? You rebellious daughter, how dare you utter such words? Madam's indulgence has spoiled you. Wu Hongtao appeared like a clown whose mask had been stripped off, enraged and humiliated. He resorted to hitting and verbally abusing Wu Jinyang. Wu Jinyang endured each blow and insult, calmly stating, "Today, we sever our ties. From now on, there will be no connection between us." Wu Hongtao's anger overwhelmed him, causing him to faint. What a daughter, and what a daughter raised by a woman with a scandalous past. When Liang Jin saw Wu Hongtao faint, he immediately waved his hand and asked someone to carry him to the side hall. He called for a doctor to examine Wu Hongtao. The doctor diagnosed him with an episode of anger-induced distress, questioning if he could continue the trial today. Liang Jin turned around and glanced at Wu Jinyang. His heart ached for her, but he was helpless. His attention shifted to Su Yingxue, and a spark of hope emerged. Su Yingxue, let's conclude today's proceedings. If you can revive Lord Wu, I will adjourn this case today. Liang Jin detested unnecessary delays. When the facts were clear, he loathed prolonging matters. Across the entire capital prefecture, who knew how many pending cases awaited resolution? Lord Liang, let's adjourn the session for today. Chu Yihan entered the side hall, his authoritative voice laden with immense pressure that made even breathing difficult. Approaching Su Yingxu's side, Wu Jinyang stood by her. Liang Jin's expression revealed his dilemma. Ninth Prince, given your esteemed position, you must understand that prolonging this case is not advisable. Do you disregard my words, Lord Liang? Chu Yihan's intense gaze cast a deeper weight upon Liang Jin's shoulders. He found himself momentarily speechless. Lord Liang, after you complete the trial, I'll cooperate with you to revive Lord Wu. However, I wish to treat him privately, with all of you leaving the room. Su Yingxue held a notebook beneath her arm, appearing carefree and innocently girlish. Liang Jin shook his head decisively. I must oversee your treatment of Lord Wu. After all, your medical skills are quite extraordinary. Her ability to cure his madam, rescue Consort Xiong, and elicit the truth from Wu Ruofei with a single needle left Liang Jin somewhat suspicious of her methods. As the capital governor, he was bound to maintain fairness and impartiality. Lord Liang, my expertise is in medicine, not sorcery. One can't manipulate a person, and I certainly won't bring harm to Lord Wu. Su Yingxu's expression held genuine innocence. The weight Chu Yihan exerted upon Liang Jin was substantial. Thus, he was unwilling to take any risks. What if this lady relied on Chu Yihan's power to kill Wu Hongtao? With Chu Yihan around, this was not impossible. Chapter 124. Reversal. Chu Yihan asked Su Yingxue, "Do you want to speak to him alone?" Su Yingxue nodded, her bright eyes radiating a lovable charm. Chu Yihan promptly escorted Liang Jin out. Wu Jinyang and the doctor also tactfully exited the room. Liang Jin remained concerned. Your Highness, this isn't advisable. It goes against the protocol. What if Su Yingxue, my word is the protocol. Inside the room, Su Yingxue burst into laughter upon hearing Chu Yihan's words. Indeed, he was a truly domineering Your Highness. She approached the bedside, administering a few needles to Wu Hongtao. Then, she gave Wu Hongtao a pill and he woke up. Seeing her by his bedside, Wu Hongtao would have preferred to faint once again. He shut his eyes and let out a disdainful snort. Don't think that saving me will make me spare you, Su Yingxue. Don't even dream of evading your culpability. Sigh, Lord Wu, whether I evade culpability or not is another matter. Why don't you consider how you can absolve yourself of guilt? Su Yingxue playfully slapped the account book onto Wu Hongtao's face. Wu Hongtao opened the account book, gritting his teeth with anger. Su Yingxue, you dare. Before he could finish, he read the words on the account book and his heart tightened instantly, his face turning pale. This. How? How did this end up in her hands? How did she know? Wu Hongtao felt like the sky was crashing down on him. Upon waking, Liang Jin even examined Wu Hongtao's condition before resuming the trial. Wu Hongtao's complexion was so poor, he seemed like a tottering kite that could collapse at any moment. Liang Jin couldn't help but worry. Lord Wu, can you manage to attend the trial? Wu Hongtao stuttered. He wanted to say that he couldn't go through with it. Was it important for him to attend the court now? However, with Su Yingxue standing in the courtroom, smiling at him, Wu Hongtao nearly choked himself. He exhaled heavily. Proceed to the courtroom. 111 Admit my wrongdoing. Liang Jin's mind was filled with doubts. As the court session resumed, Wu Ruofei was carried away, and Madame Wu was called in as a witness. In response to the testimonies of Wu Jinyang and the elderly maid, Madame Wu also led her servants into the courtroom. Lord Liang, Wu Jinyang openly assaulted her biological father, which is a display of unfilial behavior. Her mother was a courtesan, and I, as the mistress of the house, have never looked down upon her. I treated her with the utmost respect and even granted her the status of a concubine. However, her actions are beyond what the minister's estate can tolerate. While she was once dissatisfied with the treatment she received at the minister's estate, my expenditures as the mistress might not even exceed hers. Thus, this situation arose. After her untimely demise, I treated her daughter, Jinyang, as my own. Yet, despite all this, she still managed to cause trouble. Jinyang was dissatisfied with me, the mistress, and even conspired with outsiders. It's truly heartbreaking. With Madame Wu's superb acting skills, she cried whenever she wanted in the hall. Wu Jinyang was so angry that her face turned red and her hands clenched into fists. Su Yingxue comforted her by patting her hand, saying, "Sister, don't be anxious." Upon hearing her mother being insulted, Wu Jinyang felt a surge of indignation. After Su Yingxue's reassuring words, she suddenly calmed down. "Did you prepare for this?" Su Yingxue nodded. "Yes, sister, don't worry." Wu Jinyang and Su Yingxue stood together in the courtroom, listening to Madame Wu's tearful account. Meanwhile, Liang Jin contemplated how to make a fair judgment. Smack. Suddenly, the crisp sound of a slap echoed through the air. Liang Jin was momentarily stunned. Wu Jinyang could hardly believe it either. But the most stinging blow was felt by Madame Wu. Chapter 125. Driving Madame Wu crazy. Her eyes widened like copper bells, and the red veins in her eyes were suffused with an incredulous glare. "Master, why? Why did you hit me?" "I hit you precisely because you're a venomous wretch." Wu Hongtao ground his teeth. "Master, have you gone mad?" Madame Wu shrieked. After so many years of marriage to Wu Hongtao, the two had never exchanged pleasantries, nor had they ever quarreled. Wu Hongtao even praised her as a resourceful woman who managed household affairs meticulously and efficiently, raising their 3 children. And now, in front of so many people, he was hitting her. Wu Hongtao wasn't insane, but he slapped Madame Wu again, seething with anger. "You wretched woman! Who told you to raise such a ruckus in front of me? This matter. What does it have to do with Miss Su?" Madame Wu's eyes almost popped out. "Master, could it be that you've been bewitched by Su Yingxue? She barged into our home, maimed Ruofei, and caused harm to our 2 sons as well. All of that was their own doing, and it has nothing to do with Miss Su or anyone else," Wu Hongtao vehemently stated, leaning on his cane. How can it not have anything to do with her? Wu Hongtao, have you lost your mind? Madame Wu disregarded her image and dignity, blurting out Wu Hongtao's name. In order to ensure Su Yingxue faced the punishment she deserved, she harmed her precious daughter, Wu Ruofei. She had endured it until now, but now Wu Hongtao was retreating. No. She couldn't accept this. Lord Liang, Su Yingxue must have poisoned my husband. Please, Lord Liang, administer justice for our Wu family and severely punish this murderer, Su Yingxue. Madame Wu's eyes were bloodshot as she pleaded. Lord Liang, this case was falsely reported. It has nothing to do with Miss Su. My daughter's injuries. She caused them herself. It has nothing to do with Jinyang. It's all my fault as a father, for not disciplining her properly. Please, exonerate Miss Su. Wu Hongtao knelt before Liang Jin. In terms of official position, Wu Hongtao's rank wasn't lower than Liang Jin's. Even though Liang Jin's capital prefecture had to respect him. However, Wu Hongtao's kneeling was too swift and sincere, making Liang Jin unable to figure out what had happened. He questioned once more, Lord Wu, are you certain it was a false accusation? It's not just false accusation. One want to withdraw the case and apologize to Miss Su. Because of my poor parenting, Jinyang endured this humiliation. It's all my fault. Wu Hongtao sobbed. He even faced Wu Jinyang and bowed his head to apologize. Jinyang, it's all my fault. I mistreated your mother in the past and didn't treat you well either. That's why you've suffered for so many years. This time too. It's my fault. Wu Jinyang's eyes were red. At this moment, the pent-up frustration in her heart found an outlet, and it all poured out. Your apology means nothing, she declared coldly. I've said it before, I sever all ties with you. You are no longer my father. From this day forward, Wu Jinyang had no father. And she cared not. Wu Hongtao's face turned a pallid grey. He begged Liang Jin pitifully, requesting the case's dismissal. However, Liang Jin also ruled against him for false accusations and imposed a fine. As Liang Jin slammed the gavel down, before the final verdict was reached, Madame Wu rushed toward Su Yingxue like a madwoman. You, bitch. What poison did you administer to my husband, causing him to end up like this? How can I not blame you? It's all yours. It's all your fault. Chapter 126. Pleased you harmed my daughter, my son. It's all because of you that our family has ended up like this. Both you and Wu Jinyang should die. You both deserve to die. Liang Jin swiftly summoned his men. Roar in court. Capture her. Madame Wu was subdued by Liang Jin's bailiffs. Despite Liang Jin's repeated attempts to dissuade her, Madame Wu continued her tirade. Growing annoyed, Liang Jin had no choice but to sentence her. Disrupting the court, disrespecting me, 30 lashes. No. That's not how it should be. Liang Jin, you, the capital governor, should have beaten Su Yingxue to death. She deserves to die. Madame Wu shouted at the top of her lungs, saliva dripping from the corner of her mouth. She had been the madam of a minister for many years, and all her years of dignity and image had been destroyed today. Both she and Wu Hongtao couldn't escape Liang Jin's punishment. Liang Jin beat them up in public. Once the beating was done, they were carried away by their servants. Many commoners who had attended the hearing witnessed the entire trial and cast scornful glances at them. Some even pelted them with rotten eggs and vegetables. Su Yingxue stood beside Wu Jinyang and asked her, Sister Jinyang, do you feel relieved? Wu Jinyang managed a bitter smile. Yes, I do. However, she had also severed ties with her biological father. Now, she felt a sense of relief. Outside the courtroom, Su Hao was waiting. Su Yingxue waved at him and wanted to walk over with Wu Jinyang. Behind them, Liang Jin suddenly approached. Miss Su, please wait. One have something to discuss with you. Su Yingxue nudged Wu Jinyang. Sister, you and brother can leave first. Wait, Yingxue, are you all right? I'll ask your brother to come and stay with you. Wu Jinyang was nervously sweating. She hadn't had a chance to ask Su Yingxue how she managed to get Wu Hongtao to confess and apologize to her. With the case now concluded, and Liang Jin preventing her from leaving, she couldn't help but feel worried. No need, brother rarely has free time. He needs to accompany you to the shop for decoration. Although I'm investing, if brother wants to contribute, I won't refuse. Su Yingxue smiled, reassuring Wu Jinyang to leave with Su Hao. She followed Liang Jin to the back hall. In the back hall, Liang Jin had someone prepare tea. After interrogating the case for half a day, Liang Jin's mouth was dry. He thought that Su Yingxue was the same. Su Yingxue finished her tea and looked at Liang Jin. Lord Liang, do you want to ask if one poisoned Lord Wu? Liang Jin shook his head. I had a doctor examine Lord Wu's pulse, and there are no signs of poisoning. Even if I were to ask, Miss Su might not tell me. It's best not to inquire. A trace of surprise flickered in Su Yingxue's eyes. Liang Jin was indeed perceptive and had a deep understanding. Then, Lord Liang, what would you like to discuss? Liang Jin nodded. Miss Su, you're intelligent. Since the court is adjourned, 1 a.m. no longer an official. Speaking as an elder, one wished to have a conversation with Miss Su. Miss Su, are you aware that before the court session, the 9th prince visited me and said something? Su Yingxue shook her head. I am not aware. She hadn't paid attention to Chu Yihan's whereabouts. Your Highness stated that if one were to harm you even slightly, he would reduce my capital prefecture to ruins. Liang Jin's tone grew somber. Su Yingxue's brow twitched. She hadn't expected Chu Yihan to be so. Well, there was nothing to be surprised about. In front of the emperor, Chu Yihan was domineering and fierce, and he might not even give a face to him, let alone Liang Jin. Chapter 127. A strange woman like her mother. However, his words were undeniably too harsh. Raised to the ground, Su Yingxue pondered for a moment. Looking at the current state of the room, if it were raised to the ground, she might now be sitting amidst the swirling dust, having tea with Liang Jin. But as she observed Liang Jin's expression, she cautiously inquired, Lord Liang, do you think that I am acting recklessly because one have your highness support? Miss Su, I assent that the case? Liang Jin stepped down from the platform, revealing a trace of helplessness in his eyes. Lord Liang, I won't accept the blame because I don't believe I've done anything wrong. Su Yingxue said firmly. If she hadn't been concerned about Wu Jinyang and gone to the minister's estate, Wu Jinyang might have ended up as a lifeless body by now. As for Wu Hongtao's family, who condoned the crime, they would have escaped unscathed. On what grounds? Was Wu Jinyang's life not a life? Miss Su, wasn't it wrong for you to intrude into the minister's estate? Breaking Wu Ruofei's limbs, wasn't that wrong? Before she could respond, Liang Jin interjected, I understand your sympathy for Wu Jinyang. As the governor of the capital prefecture, I also recognize the injustice she's suffered. However, the crux of the matter lies in her failure to report these grievances to the authorities. Even if it were common citizens, I might still comprehend it. But you and Wu Jinyang, one being the legitimate daughter of the Marquise Manor and the other the daughter of a minister, what status do you both hold? Shouldn't you abide by the law? What purpose does the legal system of the Great Cheng dynasty serve? Liang Jin's expression was filled with regret, and his tone grew even more solemn. Lord Liang, if women of the Great Cheng dynasty could live worry-free lives after reporting to the authorities, I would gladly admit my mistake and take responsibility for my actions. Su Yingxue's demeanor turned grave. Morally and logically, she hadn't done anything wrong. However, from a legal standpoint, she admitted she was wrong. Liang Jin's expression darkened slightly, but as the governor of the capital prefecture, he remained resolute. Miss Su, the law surpasses all else. Even if a prince commits a crime, he should face the same consequences as a commoner. Had these words come from another official's mouth, Su Yingxue might have considered it a jest. However, she trusted the words spoken by Liang Jin. That's why she confessed to him. Lord Liang, my actions were indeed impulsive. Liang Jin showed a glimmer of relief. Your acknowledgement makes this trial worthwhile, and my words haven't been in vain. Miss Su, you truly are a reasonable woman. You are indeed the daughter of Princess Shu Li. Lord Liang is familiar with my mother as well. Su Yingxue's heart skipped a beat. Liang Jin smiled. I had the privilege of witnessing her grace once. Although one never had the chance to meet Princess Xu Li in person due to her early passing, her reputation spread far and wide. Aside from her medical expertise, her character and conduct were truly commendable. In our great Cheng dynasty, there's hardly a woman with a more forthright demeanor than Princess Xu Li. A trace of sorrow flashed across Su Yingxu's eyes. Indeed, she had been born too late. She had never even seen her mother. Now, she had to rely on others to learn about her mother's life. Miss Su, I didn't mean to stir up your grief. The purpose of my words today is merely to remind you, as the esteemed daughter of the Marquise Manor, that you must think twice before doing anything. If you want to save someone, there is always a better way than barging into the estate and causing a ruckus. Liang Jin said earnestly. After saying this, he didn't say anything else. He was willing to speak at length because he admired Su Yingxue. Chapter 128, Cold Jade Token. If she could adhere to the law and truly bring those of ill intent to justice, then she would indeed be an unparalleled exceptional woman in the world. Liang Jin hoped to witness such an admirable woman in his lifetime. After all, treating women fairly wasn't truly a commonplace occurrence in this world. Liang Jin's words spurred deep reflection. Su Yingxue found herself pondering, perhaps she had been too impulsive. From now on, she would have to be more cautious in the future. Lost in thought, she failed to notice her surroundings and suddenly collided with an unexpected obstacle. Hiss, rubbing her head, she looked up and saw Chu Yihan in his resplendent purple-gold robe. His handsome features and enigmatic eyes were captivating in every way. Once again, she found herself entranced by his countenance. Get in the carriage. Chu Yihan skillfully guided her into the carriage of the prince's mansion. Su Yingxue couldn't help but mutter, Your Highness, are you planning to level the capital prefecture city? Isn't this a bit domineering? Chu Yihan held Su Yingxu's jade pendant, and a mischievous glint flashed in his eyes. If the minister's estate has vexed you to such an extent, I could obliterate it first. Su Yingxue was rendered speechless. That was too terrifying. However, his words were heartwarming. In Chu Yihan's presence, Su Yingxue playfully pouted and retorted, Lord Liang reminded me not to be so impulsive in barging into the residence. There are better ways to deal with people. Chu Yihan ruffled her hair. That makes sense. Your Highness, how do you think I could have saved Sister Jinyang in that situation? Su Yingxue felt relaxed in front of Chu Yihan, so she started chatting with him. Chu Yihan retrieved a jade pendant from his waist. It was an intricately carved token made of cold jade, which he handed to Su Yingxue. If you had held this at the time, you could have entered the minister's estate openly, taken Wu Jinyang away, and no one in the minister's estate would have dared to object. Su Yingxue played with the token. The cold jade was pure white but had an effect contrary to its name. It emanated warmth. What is this? Can it intimidate the people of the minister's estate? It's my royal token. Su Yingxue was shocked. She held the cold jade in her hands and extended it toward Chu Yihan. Your Highness, you should put it away quickly. Chu Yihan showed no intention of retrieving it. Things I bestow are not meant to be taken back. Su Yingxue was filled with bewilderment. When did it turn into a gift? She promptly handed it back to Chu Yihan. Your Highness, one haven't said I want to accept it. Chu Yihan pulled her into his arms and put the cold jade around her neck. The cold jade, upon contact, emitted warmth that gradually spread, causing her heart to race. Your Highness, this isn't, if you don't accept it, it'll take you back to the mansion. I accept. Su Yingxue shrunk her neck. She was terrified. Taking a token was much easier than being brought back to the residence by Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan nodded. Next time you encounter any trouble or wish to enter any place, just show this token. No one will obstruct you. Touching the cold jade on her chest, Su Yingxue sensed that Chu Yihan was conveying, feel free to cause a ruckus, one will indulge you. As a result, she ventured hesitantly, could one barge into the palace? Chu Yihan didn't immediately respond, instead pressing his lips together. In moments of silence, his imposing presence weighed heavily upon the atmosphere. Su Yingxue grumbled inwardly that she had indeed overthought things. However, Chu Yihan pinched her delicate nose and reminded her, "You're forbidden from barging into the imperial brother's chambers. As for other places, do as you please." Su Yingxue was left bewildered. There was always light at the end of the tunnel. Chapter 129, Princess Shengping's Gift of Thanks. Oh no, how could she think like this? Was she, Su Yingxue, that kind of person? Even if she could break the palace, she wouldn't use Chu Yihan's token to barge in, would she? But what if? A warm sensation spread through Su Yingxue's palm. However, it was accompanied by the weight of the cold jade. Chu Yihan had already given her the token. How could she repay Chu Yihan for such an important thing? As if understanding her internal struggle, Chu Yihan didn't give her a chance to refuse him. Chu Yihan instructed her to keep the token close to her body, then held her hand as he said, "With this, you won't need to fear anything in the future. Not even my imperial brother can easily accuse you." Ultimately, Su Yingxue's heart was engulfed by that warmth. She smiled. "All right." Stepping down from the carriage, the warmth still radiated within her, her heart pounding. All of it came from Chu Yihan. She returned to the treatment room and saw a hooded woman standing at the door. Su Yingxue immediately stuffed the cold jade back into her clothes and walked over calmly. Princess Shengping seemed ready to kneel in respect, but Su Yingxue hurriedly held her arm and helped her stand up. "Princess, what are you doing? Technically, one should be the one showing respect." Shengping was humble. "I'm just a princess from a fallen kingdom. I'm nothing, but Miss Su is the daughter of the Marquise Manor. In this great Cheng dynasty, you can be considered the head of the noble ladies." "The head of the noble ladies?" Su Yingxue smiled, a trace of amusement in her expression. She had never adorned herself with such accolades. But Princess Shengping's words weren't entirely unfounded, were they? "Princess, please enter the treatment room." Su Yingxue knew that it was inconvenient for Shengping to show her face, so she took her into the treatment room and closed the door. There were only two of them. Shengping was not that nervous. Su Yingxue proposed, "Princess, if you don't mind, could you remove your hood and veil? Let me assess your complexion and then determine the appropriate treatment." After Shengping nodded, she revealed her face. Su Yingxue looked at her carefully. She was really beautiful. She exuded a fresh and elegant aura from the inside out. She grew up in the royal family. Even if the country was fallen, she could still see the elegance of a princess from Shengping. Especially when she smiled, her lips curved delicately, making people feel that peach blossoms were blooming in front of them, dazzling and eye-catching. After thoroughly assessing her pulse, Su Yingxue prescribed warming herbs for her. Expressing her gratitude once more, Shengping instructed Liana to bring several medical books. She smiled and handed them to Su Yingxue. "These books are treasures from the royal palace of the Yu Kingdom. I lack valuable possessions, and these mundane offerings hardly qualify as proper gratitude for Dr. Su. Please accept these medical books, Dr. Su, and forgive any perceived inadequacy." The gift resonated with Su Yingxue's taste. Su Yingxue smiled and accepted the book. "Since you're offering them, I won't stand on ceremony." Her forthright personality made Shengping feel better. She had never liked owing people anything. Even though she had been tortured, she had never spoken to Chu Yihan. If it wasn't for the fact that her life was at stake, she wouldn't have had the chance to see Chu Yihan again. Shengping was determined to repay Su Yingxue for saving her life. Su Yingxue flipped through 2 pages of the medical book and found that Shengping was sincerely grateful to her. She could not understand the Yu Kingdom's characters, but Shengping used the characters of the Great Cheng dynasty to make annotations. Her handwriting was beautiful and pleasing to the eye. She had wanted to close the book and tell Shengping about her illness. However, she accidentally brought it to the last page and realized that there was a picture on the page. Her eyes widened. Chapter 130. The Empress of Yu's best friend. She took out the medical book left behind by her mother from the drawer and flipped to the last page. She placed the 2 books together and realized that the patterns in both books were the same. They were only half drawn. When put together, It formed the image of an auspicious cloud. What's going on? Su Yingshu's heart was pounding intensely. Princess, you mentioned that you brought this book from the Yu Kingdom's imperial palace. How did the Yu Kingdom's imperial palace obtain it? This pattern. Do you know what this pattern represents? Su Yingxue hastily pushed the two books in front of Sheng Ping and asked urgently. Sheng Ping was also somewhat puzzled. This book has been cherished by my mother. I've seen this pattern before. When I was young, my mother mentioned that she and her close friend drew this together. They each contributed half of the drawing. On every book that my mother owned, this pattern would be depicted. As she spoke, she opened the other two books. The last pages of both books featured the same pattern. Su Yingxue held the medical book left behind by her mother, and her hand trembled. Did her mother know the Empress of the Yu Kingdom? Princess, could you please try to recall more about your mother? Her friend's identity? Have you ever met this friend? Sheng Ping shook her head. I've only heard my mother mention it. My mother is of noble status in the Yu Kingdom, and her close friend is naturally of high rank as well. There's more than one such friend, but I can't remember who it is at the moment. Princess, please think carefully. This is related to my mother, Su Yingxue urgently pleaded. Sheng Ping furrowed her brows. Could it be that Su Yingxue's mother was the person who knew her mother? Dr. Su, our princess has just sustained an injury and hasn't fully recovered. It might not be easy for her to remember right now. How about you give her a few days to rest and recover? If she recalls anything, she can inform you later. Liana requested on Sheng Ping's behalf. Despite her impatience, Su Yingxue could only nod in agreement. Thank you, Princess. Her mind was consumed with thoughts about her mother's connection to the Yu Kingdom's royal family, and she failed to notice the curiosity in Sheng Ping's eyes. Sheng Ping put on her veil and hood again and took Liana back to the princess manor. On the way, Liana smiled. Princess, with Dr. Su thinking about you, your days will be much better. If she wanted to know about her mother, she would protect you. After leaving the clinic, Sheng Ping no longer forced herself to stay alert. The smile faded from her face, replaced by bitterness. For someone like me, being alive is already a burden. Why would I want her to protect me? Am one going to burden her? Princess, please don't speak like that. You are also a princess. If it weren't for the 9th prince, that's enough. Don't discuss your highness. Sheng Ping closed her eyes, locking away all the pain within. She had never held any resentment towards Chu Yihan, the one who had conquered the capital of the Yu Kingdom. Her parents had sacrificed their lives for their country, and it wasn't Chu Yihan who had forced them to. As the enemy's commander, Chu Yihan spared her life and even allowed her to live in the Great Cheng dynasty for several years. That was already a considerable favor. Even without him, another country would likely have seized the opportunity to invade the Yu Kingdom. At that time, her humiliation might have been even more severe than it was now. Chu Yihan couldn't be blamed for her country's fall. And why didn't she tell Su Yingxue directly? Why did she keep her hanging? It wasn't because she wanted her to protect her, but because it would provide her with more opportunities to see Chu Yihan, even if just briefly, even if they couldn't exchange words. She wanted to see him more. Back then, the image of the iron horse and spear breaking through the city gate was truly awe-inspiring. Chapter 131. Deduct your candies. Smoke filled the air, and the Yu Kingdom's imperial palace lay in ruins. The 12-year-old girl watched as her father trembled on the dragon throne, writing the letter of surrender, while her mother held her in her arms, tears streaming down her face. With the Qingfeng sword in his hand, Chu Yihan took the letter of surrender and promised the man on the dragon throne that he would not kill the people of the Yu Kingdom, pledging to protect the last of his bloodline. As soon as he finished speaking, Sheng Ping saw his father crash into the pillar in the hall. Her mother rushed over, took out a sharp knife that she had hidden in her arms, and stabbed it at herself. Father, mother. At that moment of Sheng Ping's crying out, a large hand covered her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she was already on a warhorse with Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan's cold voice echoed, "Yu Kingdom has fallen. I will bring you to the Great Cheng dynasty. From now on, that's where you'll live. If your life is in danger, you can come to me. Sheng Ping's trembling hand grasped a corner of his clothing as she choked out, "All right." Wherever his warhorse passed, there were corpses strewn about. Sheng Ping saw Chu Yihan intervening whenever commoners were being mistreated. If any soldiers tried to harm her, Chu Yihan would eliminate them. She was the only prize Chu Yihan brought back to the great Cheng dynasty, yet he never demanded anything from her. However, she asked carefully about the piece of clothing she had taken from him back then. "Can I have it?" Chu Yihan swung his long sword, severing the piece of fabric. Sheng Ping pinched the piece of clothing stained with old blood and stuck it to her face. She hugged it gently and fell asleep. By the time Su Yingxue had finished seeing her patients in the afternoon, the clinic was being closed by Manager Qi. He found her still in the treatment room. He stepped forward to remind her, "Miss, please take care of yourself. Don't overexert." With a heavy expression, Su Yingxue replied, "I'll read the medical books a little longer. You all can head back." Manager Qi bowed and replied, "Understood." Su Yingxue was left alone in the medical hall, and she was getting more and more irritated. She called Zi Wei a few times, but there was no response. Only when she was so exhausted that she nearly dozed off on the table did she notice a dark figure. There was a trace of blood on Zi Wei, causing Su Yingxue to furrow her brows. "What happened? Are you injured again?" Zi Wei lowered his head and nodded. "Didn't one tell you not to fight and get hurt?" Su Yingxue carefully lifted his clothes, revealing 2 more wounds on his back, both quite deep. A surge of anger welled up in her heart. "If you go out and fight again, Zi Wei raised his gaze, uncertain about what kind of threat she might utter. Su Yingxue contemplated for a while before turning to brew some medicine for him. What could she do with this cold-blooded assassin? Kill him? That was impossible. She prepared 2 bowls of medicine, intentionally making them bitter. Zi Wei didn't hesitate to drink both, and his gaze remained fixed on Su Yingxue as if he was waiting for something. Su Yingxue smirked. "Want some candy?" Zi Wei nodded. "Yes." "No. Who told you to get hurt again? If you get hurt and it affects my ability to detoxify and help you recover, I won't give you any candy. 111 deduct a candy each time you get injured. 1 injury, 1 candy deducted." Su Yingxue playfully threatened. Zi Wei's expression soured. He had been threatened by Su Yingxue. Even so, he had no choice but to escort Su Yingxue back to the residence, fearful that any harm might befall her. Chapter 132. The time to talk with Sheng Ping that night. Su Yingxue didn't sleep well either. She tossed and turned, her mind occupied with thoughts of her mother, the Empress of Yu Kingdom, and the connection with Princess Sheng Ping. The medical books left by her mother and the Empress of the Yu Kingdom, the patterns that could be pieced together, and the Empress' close friend. Could that be her mother? Was her mother from the Yu Kingdom? She only knew her mother was Princess Shu Li, but nobody knew where she came from or her true identity. Therefore, her mother's death remained a locked mystery. If she could uncover her mother's background, it would bring solace to her mother's soul. Unable to contain herself, she got out of bed and headed to the princess manor. She remembered Liang Jin's words and wanted to enter through the main entrance. However, the main entrance was guarded, and even the side entrance had 2 palace guards. Su Yingxue pinched the cold jade on her chest and wanted to take it in. However, before she reached the door, a figure walked out from inside. The man was dressed in a silver robe. He had a cool back view and carried a fragrance with him. Su Yingxue caught a whiff from a distance. It was the scent of Sheng Ping's clothes. Recalling Sheng Ping's numerous miscarriages, her heart skipped a beat. Oh no. As she rushed in, Sheng Ping's room was filled with sorrowful crying. Sheng Ping lay amid disheveled clothing, her body bearing marks of torment inflicted by a man. Liana sobbed heavily. "He's too heartless. Despite knowing you had just miscarried, he treated you like this. How would you face the days ahead? Princess, we must find your highness and plead for his help." Sheng Ping pulled the impulsive Liana, breathing heavily. "No. Do you want your highness to see me like this? But, apart from your highness, no one can help you. That person is a prince." Liana's heart ached for Sheng Ping. A figure crossed her mind, and her eyes lit up. Princess, we can seek Dr. Sue's help. I'll seek out Dr. Sue tomorrow. If she takes action, she can stop that person. Moreover, she wants to learn about her mother's background. Only you, the princess, remember it. I'll inform her, and shall help you. Before Liana could finish, Sheng Ping covered her mouth firmly. Her voice remained hoarse from crying, but she was extremely cautious. The Princess Manor is full of leaks, and even for you and me, certain matters can't be spoken lightly. Hearing Sheng Ping's words, Su Yingxue immediately lost her desire to enter. She turned and left the Princess Manor. On the way back to the Marquise Manor, she looked calm and kept thinking. It was a coincidence that Sheng Ping gave her the book, but she knew that her mother had a relationship with the Empress of the Yu Kingdom, but she did not tell her in the daytime. Sheng Ping remembered it. However, she intended to use this as leverage for a future deal. Su Yingxue's lips curled into a smile. A deal was possible, but she must retain control over the negotiation. At the right moment, she would have a sincere conversation with Sheng Ping. For instance, when the prince who had humiliated her appeared outside the Princess Manor simultaneously with her. This moment wasn't easy to find, but it seemed the heavens were particularly favorable to her. Early the next morning, before she went to the clinic, old Madame Zhong arrived with news. Miss, the palace has sent an invitation to the spring banquet in 7 days. However, Master has avoided letting you know. Even the new clothes and accessories have only been prepared for Miss Euro. Su Yingxue's eyes narrowed slightly. Spring banquet. Wasn't this a good opportunity? Chapter 133. The leader Liu Shulan. In her past life, she didn't even qualify to attend the spring banquet. Every year, it was either on the eve of the spring banquet that Su Yuro would embarrass her so much that she couldn't face people, or Su Dingheng would scold her severely, making it impossible for her to leave the house. This year, neither of them would be able to stop her. Inside Shaonian Court, Su Dingheng was lying on a pair of delicate knees. Liu Shulan had lit his favorite bamboo leaf incense and gently massaged his temples. Seeing him open his eyes slightly, Liu Shulan served him tea with her soft hands and brought it to Su Dingheng's mouth. After he finished drinking, he reached out and touched her tender, delicate hand. His heart stirred uncontrollably, and a touch of affection appeared in his eyes. Lena. He turned over, pressing Liu Shulan beneath him. At first, Liu Shulan felt shy, but she soon matched his eagerness, allowing him to remove his clothes as he sought fulfillment from her. After half an hour had passed, Su Dingheng felt greatly satisfied. He carefully helped Liu Shulan dress and held her in his arms, full of tenderness. After all these years, you're the one who understands me the best, Lena. Marquis has treated me so well, showing me favor for so many years. Even though you are in the Marquise Manor, your heart has always been with me. Naturally, I will serve you diligently to bring you happiness. Liu Shulan had an even more charming appearance than Su Yuro. Her eyes were so charming that they could mesmerize men. Whenever he met her gaze, Su Dingheng's rationality seemed to vanish, and he wished to offer her the best the world had to offer. After Liu Shulan satisfied him, she brought up the topic. For grand events like the spring banquet, I may not personally arrange everything for Marquis, but 111 make sure to dress our daughter beautifully. I'll remind her to not bring any disgrace upon you, Marquis. Su Dingheng playfully called Su Yuro over and planted a kiss on her cheek. Rua would never bring disgrace to me. She's a proper young lady from a noble family. Whenever I bring her to events, she always adds luster to my image. It's only Yingxue who truly vexes me. Mentioning Su Yingxue, the happiness Su Dingheng had felt from Liu Shulan instantly faded. His dark brows furrowed. Liu Shulan then summoned Su Yuro and gently stroked Su Dingheng's chest. Certainly, it's Rua who hasn't performed well at home, which is why the relationship between Marquis and eldest young miss has become so strained. Rua, mother can't bear to see you unhappy. Have you upset your sister again? Su Yuro's innocent face appeared timid, her eyes filled with grievances. Apologetically, she said, it's all Rua's fault for failing to gain sister's favor. Mother, I'll give sister all the gold and silver jewelry you've given me to please her. Good child, that's very good. Liu Shulan patted Su Yuru's hand and praised her. Su Dingheng's anger grew upon hearing this. He kicked the cushion away and cursed Su Yingxue. Who does she think she is? She wants my Ruer to please her. She should be the one pleasing Ruer. Marquis, eldest young miss, is the legitimate daughter with noble status. How could she be the one pleasing Ruer? Our Ruer can't endure treatment from eldest young miss like that. Even if eldest young miss wanted Ruer to be her servant, one would properly guide Ruer on how to serve her. Liu Shulan's eyes were sincere, brimming with tears, portraying a gentle and caring demeanor that would touch anyone's heart. Su Dingheng's heart softened at her words. How could one bear to let our flesh and blood serve her? Su Yingxue doesn't even consider if she's worthy. What legitimate daughter? If it wasn't for her slut mother's reputation, would I have married her to trick the old master into passing the title to me? Otherwise, you would have returned with me to the Marquise Manor and lived a comfortable life. Chapter 134. Gaining experience. Marquis, what are you talking about? Being by Marquis' side for all these years is already a great blessing. Liu Shulan anxiously held Su Dingheng's hand, placing it over the softest part of her chest. Su Yuro observed from the side, realizing that her mother truly could capture her father's heart. Her endurance was far inferior to her mother's. When Su Dingheng heard her words, he felt that she carried an air of dignity and grace. He had also heard her mention providing jewelry for Su Yuro. He immediately took out a stack of silver notes. Take these. I've already arranged for Rao's clothes and accessories. I'll get someone to add some more. I guarantee that our Ruer will dress beautifully on the day of the spring banquet and make others envious. Thank you, Father, for your love. Your affection for Mother indirectly benefits your daughter too. Su Yuro giggled sweetly. You little one. Marquis has showered you with affection for many years, treating you far better than eldest young miss. Yet, you still have so many requests. When you return, make sure to serve your elder sister well. Yes, Mother. I'll remember that and serve my sister diligently. Both mother and daughter exhibited extraordinary obedience. Su Dingheng cherished them dearly, and his guilt only deepened. Upon returning home with Su Yuro, he waved his hand, instructing his men to provide Su Yuro with a substantial amount of silver and additional clothing and accessories. When he passed by Su Yingxu's courtyard, he realized that there was no movement at her place. When the courtyard was deserted, Su Dingheng felt very carefree again. Su Yuro proudly showed off the clothing and accessories Su Dingheng had provided, her excitement evident as she spoke. After Liu Shulan's initial joy, she hurriedly reminded her, if Su Yingxue discovers these items, don't be stingy. Let her choose first. I won't. Mother, these are all the best materials in Jiangdu City. And this rouge and cosmetic powder was bought from the newly opened Thousand Treasures Pavilion. It's very expensive. Su Yuro guarded her belongings closely, worried they might be taken from her. Liu Shulan gently shook her head. How can you compare yourself to Su Yingxue? In the future, how can you compete with her for the position of 7th Imperial Consort? Mother, are you implying that she might threaten me into marrying the 7th Prince? Su Yuru's worry caused her to cast her things aside and gaze at her mother nervously. Liu Shulan was born with a delicate face and a frail body. Even Su Yuro, her biological daughter, would want to protect her mother, let alone men. Liu Shulan embraced Su Yuro and tenderly smoothed her hair. Do you think that a young woman like her would expose herself so frequently and visit medical clinics for no reason? Haven't you suffered enough at her hands in the past? Mother. Su Yuro protested, slightly frustrated. Listen to Mother. Su Yingxue will undoubtedly attend the spring banquet this time. However, you must avoid any conflicts with her. Just observe her closely and report back to me about her behavior at the event, Liu Shulan earnestly advised. Mother, I don't want her to go. Is there any way to stop her from going? If she meets the 7th Prince, Su Yuru's anger flared as she thought of Su Yingxu's envious face. Don't worry. Mother will find Su Yingxu's weaknesses and only then can we defeat her in one fell swoop. After consoling Su Yuro for some time, Liu Shulan urged her to be patient and not to engage in any conflicts with Su Yingxue at the spring banquet. Previously, she had suffered quite a bit from Su Yingxue. This time, even if Su Yuro did not want to be obedient, she could only be obedient. Chapter 135. How many discussions have you received alone? On the day of the spring banquet, Su Dingheng woke up early in a good mood, intending to check if Su Yuro was ready. As he stepped out of the courtyard, he spotted Su Yingxue dressed in vibrant red riding attire, holding a whip. Her fresh appearance and fiery spirit were truly dazzling. "Why are you out here?" Su Dingheng's greeting lacked warmth. Su Yingxue looked puzzled as she inquired, "Father, did you not receive the invitations for today's spring banquet at Upper Forest Court?" Su Dingheng's expression stiffened. "Of course. Received the invitations." He pondered how to respond if Su Yingxue questioned him about why he hadn't taken her along. Su Yingxue continued, "That's good then. 111 Throw the extra invitations back to the study." "Extra invitations? Did you receive multiple invitations by yourself?" Su Dingheng's eyes widened. The Upper Forest Court spring banquet was a prestigious event only open to officials of the third rank and above. Moreover, it was a high-level banquet that the madam of titled individuals with imperial favor could bring their children to. Su Dingheng himself only managed to secure an invitation each year based on his title. Given Su Yingxue's lack of official position and imperial favor, where did she get these invitations? And more than one? Su Yingxue looked at Su Dingheng's puzzled expression and casually replied, "Father, are you unaware? The emperor personally extended an invitation to me. Consort Xiong also granted me one. The 9th Prince and Mrs. Liang have invited me as well. General Lin has sent an invitation. Oh, and of course, my dear brother also sent me an invitation." "Your brother? Even if he is a military general, he hasn't reached the third rank. Where did he get an invitation?" The blood rushed to Su Dingheng's throat, his incredulity evident. "Of course, it's the emperor's recognition. Brother is a young general with renowned military achievements. Even if he holds a 5th-grade general position, the emperor acknowledges him regardless of his title." Su Yingxue's face radiated pride and beauty, her eyes gleaming with a sense of accomplishment. In contrast, Su Dingheng, who was also a member of the Su family and Su Hao's father, couldn't help but feel diminished in pride. His son and daughter seemed to have more prestige. Compared to his reliance on his title to secure an invitation, Su Hao and Su Yingxue's reception of the invitations outshone his own. It was as if they had overshadowed him. It was enough to blind even a father's eyes. Su Dingheng coughed violently and took out 2 pills from his pocket to eat. Only then did he suppress the surging blood in his heart. After Su Yuro was ready, she walked out as well. When she saw Su Yingxue in her riding attire, she gritted her teeth. Her mother was right. Su Yingxue had come. With a bright smile, she approached Su Yingxue. "Sister, it's wonderful that you're attending the spring banquet. However, your outfit today might not be entirely suitable. I've prepared 2 new sets of clothing and accessories. Would you like to choose one to change into?" Su Yingxue glanced at the valuable attire. A hint of mockery played on her lips. "Sister, don't you know? Upper Forest Court consists of both scenic spots and hunting ground. Otherwise, why aren't you wearing a gown today? It seems you've dressed lightly for ease of movement." A flicker of embarrassment crossed Su Yuro's face. Her intentions had been transparent to Su Yingxue. Today, most of them were going to 2 places to enjoy the scenery. Whoever wore heavy clothes was destined to not be able to go to the hunting ground to play. She wanted to limit Su Yingxue's range of activities, but she did not expect that Su Yingxue, who had never been to the spring banquet, would know the rules. However, she immediately changed the topic and bowed slightly. With an apologetic expression, she said, "It was thoughtless of me. If 7th Prince had given me more riding attire, I would certainly offer a set to sister." Chapter 136. The 7th Prince gives clothes. However, she immediately changed the topic and bowed slightly. With an apologetic expression, she said, "It's my thoughtlessness. If it weren't for seventh prince only sending a set of riding attire to me, I would have certainly given one to sister. Speaking of this golden silk riding outfit, it's surprisingly lightweight and comfortable to wear. Su Yingxue glanced at her riding attire. The material was indeed the palace's specially provided golden silk. Marquis, the seventh prince has sent someone to deliver the riding attire to Miss. A servant reported, interrupting Su Yuris' words. A palace guard from the prince's residence arrived, holding a set of red riding attire. The material appeared to be the same as what Su Yuro was wearing. Su Yuro looked pleasantly surprised. Beside her, Yuan Ruo deliberately exclaimed, "Oh my, miss. Your Highness not only sent you one set but now has sent another just before departure. Has attentive to you." She deliberately used these words to taunt Su Yingxue and her maid. Unexpectedly, Jilan snorted. "Our miss doesn't care about this material." When Su Dingheng heard this, he scolded angrily, "You fool. This golden silk garment can only be obtained through the emperor's reward. Who do you think you are to look down on it?" Jilan puffed up her face and whispered, "Ninth prince sent many sets to miss before. They've all been gathering dust in the storeroom. Why suddenly take an interest in this dress? Marquis, your Highness specifically stated that this garment is intended for eldest young miss." After the palace guard finished speaking, he handed the clothing to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue waved her hand and had Jilan accept it. As Jilan accepted it, Su Yuro was dumbfounded. Su Dingheng, like a statue in the wind, only his mustache moved as the wind blew. The situation became exceedingly awkward. Su Yingxue didn't want to engage with them any longer, so she took the clothing and left. Su Dingheng looked at Su Yuro, who was crestfallen, and patted her back. "Ruo, it's just a piece of clothing. Seventh prince did it for the sake of balance between you and your sister." "Yes, father," Ruo understands. Su Yuro pretended to be obedient on the surface, while her heart was already roiling. Why should it be like this? Why did Su Yingxue have what she had? Why did seventh prince give something to her and Su Yingxue? In the carriage, Su Yuro was so angry that she began to cry. At the entrance of Upper Forest Court, Chu Changye stood tall and elegant. He typically dressed casually, but today, he was dressed splendidly. Wearing a white riding attire adorned with a dragon embroidery pattern, a silver crown on his head, and a jade belt around his waist, he exuded elegance and grace, epitomizing his appearance. His older brother, third Prince Chu Shouwen, jestingly remarked, "Seventh brother, when did you become so concerned about your appearance? Could it be that you're waiting for the delicate daughter of Marquis Su? You're taking it too seriously. Third brother, you're jesting. As a prince, I can't afford to disgrace the royal family's reputation." Chu Changye bantered back, though his gaze was involuntarily directed toward the entrance of Upper Forest Court. He was searching for a particular figure among the arriving carriages. Chu Shouwen was well aware of his younger brother's infatuation. Even if they didn't mingle with others today, Chu Changye would remain by his side for amusement. The two waited for a while, but the Marquis Manor carriage had yet to arrive. Chu Shouwen, who was used to seeing beautiful women, suddenly exclaimed, "Oh? That young woman in green exudes a valiant aura, but she looks unfamiliar. I can't recall which noble family she's from. Seventh brother, help me identify her." Chu Changye wasn't paying much attention, but after a moment, he heard Chu Shouwen exclaim, "What? It's Lin Sisi, that ugly girl? Where are the repulsive pimples on her face? Her complexion has improved, and she looks this good now." Chapter 137, giving her face to slap. When Chu Changye heard the name Lin Sisi, he cast a glance in her direction. He noticed that Lin Sisi's face was indeed different from before. However, his mind wasn't on Lin Sisi. It was on someone else, Su Yingxue. He knew that Lin Sisi's face had been healed by Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue's remarkable medical skills were even well known in the Imperial Medical Academy. And she had also entered his heart. Ever since his kidnapping, he felt as if he had been poisoned. He had no evidence, but he was certain that the person who had kidnapped him was somehow connected to Su Yingxue. When he had groggily awakened from his ordeal, the first figure that had come into view was Su Yingxue. He couldn't recall when it had started, but all he could think about now was the woman who used to pursue him and then later treated him with cold indifference. His reason for waiting here today was to catch a glimpse of her wearing the riding attire he had given her. He had a feeling that Su Yingxue would look stunning in that attire. Achoo! In the carriage, Su Yingxue sneezed multiple times. Jilan promptly handed her a handkerchief. "Miss, who's missing you so much?" Su Yingxue glanced at the red riding attire lying in the corner. Cough, one don't particularly want to be missed like this. It would be best if people stopped thinking about me. Otherwise, she might not be able to restrain herself from giving those who missed her a resounding slap. Ha ha, one understand, miss. It must be Seventh Prince who's thinking about you. Otherwise, why would he be so eager to give you riding attire? But our miss looks even better in what she's wearing now compared to what he gave. Jilan snorted lightly, seemingly proud on behalf of Su Yingxue. The material in this attire might not be as good as what he gave, but it's more practical. Su Yingxue looked at her outfit with satisfaction. Even though you didn't want it, why did you accept it? Jilan knew that Su Yingxue wouldn't wear this attire. She wasn't going to fall in love with the past one. Su Yingxue wiped her nose, her voice buzzing slightly. Because certain people are practically falling over themselves to flatter me. It would be quite awkward if one didn't accept it. Like Chu Changye. Last time, I spared him and didn't teach him a lesson. And now he dared to bring clothes. How could she not extend her hand and deliver a good, hearty slap? Zi Wei, concealed behind Su Yingxue's carriage, heard her words and felt a sense of calm. Only Jilan curiously leaned in front of Su Yingxue. Miss, how are you planning to give him a slap? One want to learn, sob. Her miss was a master at delivering face slaps. Su Yingxue smiled and instructed her to bring out the clothes from the carriage later and keep an eye on them. All the carriages from the noble families had gathered at the entrance of Upper Forest Court. Su Yingxue knew that the chief guard today was Lin Aotian, which meant she would soon see Lin Cece. Sure enough, she appeared in green riding attire, brandishing a riding crop as she dashed toward Su Yingxue. Dr. Su. Lin Cece leaped out of the crowd. Her face was no longer swollen from acne. It now exuded a radiant beauty. Her hair was elegantly pinned up, and she wore iron wrist guards on both hands. As she approached, there was a touch of alluring charm about her. Coupled with her straightforward and loud voice, she now resembled a heroine. Su Yingxue hopped off the carriage and greeted her. Lin Cece smiled upon seeing her. Dr. Su, ever since one took your medicine, look. My face is completely clear of pimples, and my complexion has improved a lot. Chapter 138. Waiting in vain. Su Yingxue felt genuinely happy for her, and she asked Jilan to bring the clothes that Chu Changye had sent. This is the riding attire that Seventh Prince sent me this morning. My current attire is decent, so I'll give this set to you. Su Yingxue smiled with her eyes forming crescents. Lin Cece glanced briefly at the clothes and looked disdainful. Sent by Seventh Prince. Dr. Su, do you have a feud with Seventh Prince? Su Yingxue held back a laugh in her heart, but she had to ask, why do you say that? The fabric is luxurious, but it's not durable at all. Lin Cece never controlled her volume when speaking, and the people around turned their heads to look at her. Of course, this included Chu Changye, who had been waiting, and Chu Shouwen, who was accompanying him. Chu Jinling, the gossip-loving soul, squeezed through the crowd and shouted from a distance, Miss Lin, those are golden silk garments. Father only rewarded my seventh brother with 2. Lin Cece turned to look at him and snorted. So what if they are valuable? Today, we came to Upper Forest Court to ride horses, shoot arrows, and hunt in the woods. These clothes will be torn soon after passing through the forest, let alone in dangerous situations. I'm afraid they won't even make it a full circle on the ground before they are ruined. Chu Jinling burst into laughter. Miss Lin, you're right. Su Yingxue also thought it made sense. Of course, she already knew about this, but she let Lin Cece voice it. She glanced at the clothes. Is it still useful? If not, we'll just have to discard it. It's not entirely useless. Dr. Su, I have a red-maned spirited horse, a pony without a saddle. Why not dress it up? Light, breathable, I bet it will like it. Lin Cece was straightforward and said whatever came to her mind. Su Yingxue waved her hand. All right, give it to your horse. Thank you, Dr. Su. Lin Cece happily draped the clothes over her pony and asked Su Yingxue if it looked good. Su Yingxue confirmed that it looked extremely good. As they enjoyed themselves, Chu Jinling laughed so hard that he almost fell off his horse. Ha ha, seventh brother's golden silk garments are now wrapped around a horse. Seventh brother, aren't you feeling heartbroken? Chu Jinling acted as if he couldn't see Chu Chengye's expression. Chu Chengye ignored him and rode his horse into Upper Forest Court in frustration. What a waste of waiting. Chu Xiuwen also left with a sullen face. As he passed by Chu Jinling, he couldn't resist a mocking remark. Ninth brother, don't laugh yourself out of breath. No worries, no worries. Third brother, why don't you go and appease seventh brother? Ha ha ha. Chu Jinling, never one to back down, left Chu Xiuwen with no way to argue. After Su Yingxue and Lin Cece finished adorning the horses, Lin Cece removed the clothes. Even my horse doesn't find this attire worthy. Dr. Su, this is even less fitting for you, she declared boldly. Su Yingxue was flattered, but she was even happier for her. With you no longer wielding a whip, you exude even more confidence than before. You truly radiate. All thanks to you, Dr. Su. My father said that if you bloom, the gentle breeze will naturally come. There's no need to bow and scrape to please others. We Lin family members can't do that kind of fawning. Just being ourselves is enough. Su Yingxue admired Lin Cece's candid personality. They walked side by side, and Su Yingxue smiled. Don't worry, you will have a bright future. She remembered that in her previous life, Lin Cece had married into an ill-fated family and passed away after a few years. Chapter 139, Make a deal with Sheng Ping. However, now that she could come back to life, Lin Cece would undoubtedly be able to change her destiny and make a new path for herself. Su Yuris' carriage followed Su Yingxue's, and she observed the actions of Su Yingxue and Lin Cece. Seating in the carriage, she bit her lip and muttered, Su Yingxue, you don't know what's good for you. Exactly. Miss, not only did she not know what was good for her, she ruined the seventh prince's intentions and did not put you in her eyes. And that Lin Cece, she's ungrateful, forgetting how you consoled her when all the esteemed ladies looked down on her. Yuan Ruo defended Su Yuro from the side. Seeing the person alight from the other carriage, Su Yuris' lips curled slightly. My mother told me to observe Su Yingxue closely today. So, I'll do just that. Today, there were plenty of people ready to cause trouble for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue had made arrangements with Lin Cece to go hunting in the forest after the noon banquet, to stretch their muscles and relax. However, now she had important matters to attend to. After Lin Cece departed, Su Yingxue softly called, Zi Wei. The dark figure landed silently. Su Yingxue asked, where is Sheng Ping? To the east, about 5 miles away, at the edge of the woods. Zi Wei's voice was hoarse. Is there someone accompanying her? Yes, a man. With a plan in mind, Su Yingxue headed east. Sheng Ping was pinned against a tree by Chu Xiuwen, and his hands began to wander. Feeling humiliated, Sheng Ping dared not make a sound. She clenched her lips tightly. Only after Chu Xiuwen found satisfaction did he release his grip on Sheng Ping. He forcefully turned her face and compelled her lips into a kiss. Don't always act so superior. You've been utterly used by me, yet you remain silent. Wait until tonight, Mph. A trace of malice glinted in his eyes. Leaving Sheng Ping behind, he turned and walked away, his gaze searching the hunting grounds for other potential prey he could catch. Su Yingxue stood to the side, waiting for Sheng Ping to tidy herself up before walking out slowly. Sheng Ping hadn't expected to encounter Su Yingxue here. A flicker of panic crossed her peach-like face. Su. Dr. Su. Su Yingxue offered a faint smile. Hello, princess. One happened to be nearby, taking a stroll, and one noticed you alone here. Is everything all right, princess? Su Yingxue's words sliced through Sheng Ping like a blade. From Su Yingshu's tone, Sheng Ping deduced that she hadn't simply been out for a walk. She must have witnessed what had happened. Sheng Ping closed her eyes in pain. Tears of humiliation welled up. Since Dr. Su saw, "Are you here to mock me? I'm not interested in that." "Then you," Sheng Ping bit her lip. She couldn't read Su Yingshu's intentions. She had seen Chu Xiuwen mistreating her. Both she and Chu Xiuwen had given her a handle to hold on to. Yet, now she remained so calm, showing no emotions at all, leaving Sheng Ping unsettled. Suspecting something, Sheng Ping inquired, "Dr. Su, did you deliberately come to find me today to ask about your mother?" Su Yingxue clicked her tongue. "To be exact, I'm here for a deal with the princess." "A deal?" Confusion flickered in Sheng Ping's eyes. "I will help the princess deal with Chu Xiuwen in exchange for you telling me about your mother and my mother. One want to know everything about my mother in your memories." Su Yingshu's composed demeanor demanded respect. Chapter 140. When did Chu Jinling jump out? Sheng Ping felt that in front of Su Yingxue, she was like naked prey, allowing her to freely scrutinize her. Her smile was tinged with sadness. It turned out she had already seen through her. And yet, she remained unaware that she was hoping to exploit this very vulnerability to plot against Su Yingxue. However, Su Yingshu's proposition was quite enticing. "Dr. Su, Sheng Ping is willing to trade with you." But, Sheng Ping bit her lip, her face showing a hint of shyness. "Sheng Ping knows these memories are rather insignificant. Asking Dr. Su to help me rid myself of Chu Xiuwen is causing you a loss, but one also want to ask for your help with one thing." Su Yingshu's expression turned cold. "Princess, you acknowledge the insignificance, yet you still request. You should be aware that if Chu Xiuwen continues to pursue you, you'll face dire consequences. He's a prince of the royal family. Even if exposed, his punishment will be trivial. But you, a princess of a fallen country, if discovered, your reputation will be ruined. You won't be able to marry, and the emperor might even kill you to protect Chu Zuwen's face." "I understand. This I senti the first time I've been humiliated. I'm not afraid of death, but I have a single wish, one that only you can help me fulfill." "It's my only wish." Sheng Ping knelt before Su Yingxue. Initially disgusted by Sheng Ping's deception, Su Yingshu's feelings softened as Sheng Ping knelt before her. Yet, she knew she couldn't let her compassion override her judgment. Her face remained stern. "I will only help you deal with Chu Xiuwen. I won't assist you in anything else. Even if I want to see your highness again, will Dr. Su not be willing to help me?" Tears streamed down Sheng Ping's pale face as she knelt, like petals tossed by the wind and rain, landing in the mud. It was pitiful. Su Yingxue hadn't anticipated this request. A pang of bitterness crept into her heart. She still needed to help her meet Chu Yihan. Isla instinct was to refuse. However, Sheng Ping remained kneeling. She was once a princess of a country. Now, she had no country and no home. Even as a princess, she was bullied pitifully. "Get up. We can discuss future matters later." Su Yingxue extended a hand to help Sheng Ping up. Sheng Ping got up and wiped away her tears. Her smile remained as beautiful as blossoming peach flowers. "Dr. Su, your kindness will be rewarded. If I can see your highness again privately in this life, 111 die without regrets." Su Yingxue was rendered speechless. It would have been better if she hadn't spoken. Her words seemed to have made her strangely want to fulfill Sheng Ping's request, leading her to die with regrets. "Bah." Su Yingxue shook her head. What was she thinking? She wasn't as petty as Su Yuro. She wouldn't let anyone harm Sheng Ping. What a pitiful woman. "Wow, my future sister-in-law, you can even tolerate this. You're so generous." Chu Jinling, the embodiment of gossip, exclaimed in amazement as he scribbled down notes with a pen. "Ninth Prince, what are you doing here?" Su Yingxue was surprised this time. When did this guy show up? Chu Jinling chuckled. "I'm just gathering material. But don't worry, one didn't hear what you two discussed earlier. One only started taking notes when you mentioned my brother." "What are you writing?" Su Yingxue leaned in skeptically, snatching the paper from his hand when he wasn't looking. Hey, hey, hey. Be careful, that's my material. One need to produce another volume when one get back. My bookstore is waiting. Chu Jinling jumped up and down anxiously. Chapter 141. Is it the divine brush Ma Liang? Su Yingxue finished reading the manuscript in her hand and realized that Chu Jinling had indeed recorded what Sheng Ping had told her about wanting to meet Chu Yihan. But the story in the first few pages, oh my goodness. What was written there? The male protagonist was Chu Han, and the female protagonist was Ying Shui, a prince, and a Marquise Manor daughter. Wasn't this basically about her and Chu Yihan? Chu Jinling, what on earth are you writing? Su Yingxue immediately became furious, slamming the manuscript onto Chu Jinling's sunny and handsome face. Ouch, I can't see. The wet ink on the paper smudged Chu Jinling's eyes. He rubbed his eyes for a while before managing to open them. However, as soon as Su Yingxue handed him the manuscript, he had already slipped it into his embrace. By the time Su Yingxue wanted to destroy it, she felt awkward to get it from his embrace. Su Yingxue angrily reached out her hand to Chu Jinling. Give me the manuscript. I need to get rid of the evidence. Chu Jinling protected his chest as if guarding a treasure. Impossible. You can take my life, but not the manuscript. His life could be taken, but not his manuscript. The material on it was the source and soul of his creation. Without creation, this prince who ignored his duties would rather die. Hand it over. No. Hand it over. No. If my imperial uncle sees this, he'll get jealous. Auntie, you won't have a good time. Chu Jinling's proud and stubborn pout was somewhat similar to Chu Yihan's. But what was he calling her? Auntie. As a prince of the royal family, could you be a bit more mindful of your choice of words? Su Yingxue seized Chu Jinling's ear and scolded him. Chu Jinling yelled, ouch, ouch, ouch. Why did you grab my ear? One didn't say anything wrong. The way you scold me is just like my imperial uncles. We're not related, so there's no need for a unified approach. I didn't call you the wrong thing. Su Yingxue almost spat blood onto Chu Jinling's face. Who the hell is related to your imperial uncle's family? If you keep spouting nonsense, if you keep pulling my ear, I won't have ears left to explain to father and mother. Chu Jinling didn't dare to fight back, speaking with a pout. Fine. Su Yingxue had forgotten. This prince before her was famously incompetent, but he was greatly favored. He had poured all his talents into being reborn. The emperor's genes, the empress womb, allowed him to be born without needing to fight for anything. He stood directly where others might spend a lifetime struggling to reach, without even seeing the starting line. Life was just that infuriating. Suppressing her anger, Su Yingxue let go of him, reasoning kindly, Ninth Prince, can we change your way of addressing me? Can you call me Su Yingxue or Dr. Su? Chu Jinling grinned in a mischievous and somewhat cheeky manner. No, I can't. Calling you auntie pleases my imperial uncle. When his imperial uncle was happy, he would inspire him to write a book, such as what he said to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue, with a hand on her forehead, said helplessly, then let's discuss something else. What I talked about with Princess Sheng Ping earlier, don't include it in the writing. Don't let anyone, including your imperial uncle, know about it, okay? Chu Jinling crossed his arms, protecting the manuscript in his embrace. After seriously considering it, he replied, one cannot tell imperial uncle, but I still have to write it. I've already outlined it. The story progresses until the princess appears. I'm getting ready to send it for printing. The plot can't be changed. Su Yingxue was shocked by his words. Are you kidding me? Are you the reincarnation of the magic paintbrush Ma Liang? Chapter 142. How is he not as good as ninth brother? But Chu Jinling leaned in with a sly expression and whispered in her ear, don't worry, I always write stories under a pen name. Besides you, no one knows it's me who wrote it. After all, it wouldn't be good if father found out. Su Yingxue responded with a mocking snort, you understand that the emperor will blame you if he finds out? Why don't you exhibit a bit of self-awareness as a prince? What was a prince even supposed to be doing? They could engage in scholarly pursuits, practice martial arts, and safeguard the realm. If things didn't work out, they could at least rely on their good looks to woo some girls. Furthermore, even if it was a matter of power struggle, a prince should join in and stir up some excitement, right? Otherwise, the emperor would be quite bored sitting on his throne. Chu Jinling playfully wagged a finger at her and continued, I have many siblings. I'm just the 9th in line. I can't excel in both literature and martial arts. There's already a crown prince, and my 3rd brother and 7th brother are vying for the throne. One lack any advantage. The most I can achieve in this life is to enjoy the privileged status bestowed by my mother's noble rank and live a carefree life. Su Yingxue was rendered speechless. No issues there. He possessed all the self-awareness that a prince wasn't supposed to have. By the way, Auntie, you don't need to worry. No one will find out about this. And if you're willing to inspire me, I'll share half of the book sales profits with you. I can also share all the inside stories I know about Jiangdu City. Chu Jinling blinked mischievously, resembling more of a mischievous spirit than a prince. Su Yingxue rolled her eyes and let out a light snort. Are you a prince, huh? How much money could you possibly make from selling books? One don't even want it for free. What? Chu Jinling pouted, looking dejected. You wouldn't even accept several tens of thousands of taels of silver a year. Su Yingxue sprained her foot. She turned around, limping back to Chu Jinling's side, and assumed a serious expression. Your Highness, Su Yingxue, I'm not someone who is motivated by money. One just want to make sure you enjoy writing. What kind of inspiration do you need? Auntie, you're too kind. I'll give you an additional share of the book sales profit. Chu Jinling patted her shoulder like an affectionate brother. He recorded every word she spoke, even if it was fabricated as if he had stumbled upon a treasure trove. As they took their seats together, Chu Jinling's eyes continued to sparkle as he stuck close to Su Yingxue. He followed Su Yingxue to her seat, and everyone's gazes followed him. Chu Xiuwen was the first to speak with a chuckle. Marquis Su's daughter is truly extraordinary. She seems to have captured our 9th brother's attention. Over there is the women's seating area, and 9th brother is not someone easily swayed. His words were a veiled jab at Su Yingxue, implying that she lacked propriety by openly attracting the prince's interest. They seemed to be quite close. Chu Chengye clenched his teeth and shattered the white jade wine cup in his hand. Above them, the emperor took his seat with the concubines. Chu Mingyuan had also heard Chu Zuwen's words. When he looked over, Chu Jinling was still by Su Yingxue's side. They were engaged in a lively conversation, their expressions filled with delight and relish. The empress noticed the emperor's furrowed brows and quickly added, "This Su family's daughter truly lacks manners." The banquet is about to begin, and yet she's still clinging to the prince, insatiable. Mother, not all of the Su family's daughters lack shame like Su Yingxue. Chu Chengye's face turned pale with anger. As he looked at Su Yuro, who was seated behind Su Yingxue, he noticed her poised and gentle demeanor. She looked at him affectionately, bringing him a sense of ease. However, when his gaze shifted to Su Yingxue, he couldn't help but want to step forward and give her a proper scolding. He wanted to ask her just how he, the highly regarded 7th prince, fell short compared to his 9th brother. Chapter 143. This king will help you pull the tooth first. After finishing his conversation with Su Yingxue, Chu Jinling hastily returned to his seat and began organizing the materials she had provided. He had a cheerful smile on his face. With all this material, he could easily write another 2 volumes. He was so engrossed in his sorting that he didn't even notice someone shouting about the arrival of the 9th prince. When he finally snapped out of it, the others had already paid their respects to Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan's behavior over the years had been consistent. He would nod to Chu Mingyuan and then, under his disapproving gaze, calmly take his seat. Apart from Chu Mingyuan, Chu Yihan commanded the utmost respect. This fact even left the empress no choice but to acknowledge it. Considering the hierarchy of their seats, the empress' position was lower than that of Chu Yihan. Just as Chu Jinling was about to jubilantly approach Chu Yihan to showcase his saved manuscript and outline, he suddenly felt Su Yingxue's gaze upon him. She lifted her cup in a toast from a distance. Did she have something important to discuss with him? Was she regretting their collaboration? Chu Jinling promptly concealed the manuscript securely within his robe and walked over to Su Yingxue. He crouched down and inquired, "Auntie, is there something you need?" With his imperial uncle present, shouldn't Su Yingxue's attention be on him? Su Yingxue gave him an exasperated look. "If you call me auntie again, I won't cooperate." Chu Jinling swiftly corrected himself. "Aunt Su, what's the matter?" Su Yingxue facepalmed and decided to ask the question first before giving Chu Jinling a beating. She raised her cup, obscuring their view from others, and asked, "Who was responsible for organizing today's banquet at the Upper Forest Court?" Chu Jinling pondered for a moment. It should have been arranged by the Ministry of Rites. They handle the ceremonial events and feasts within the palace. The Ministry of Rites. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows. She was unfamiliar with the officials of the Ministry of Rites, and she had no connections with their families. But then, why did her tea carry the fragrance of ylang ylang? Ylang ylang flowers were precious spices and could be used to produce fragrant oils. They had excellent medicinal properties, promoting relaxation and an overall sense of well-being. The entire Upper Forest Court was filled with its aroma today. It would be hard to detect unless one paid close attention. "Aunt Su, is there something specific you'd like to know?" Chu Jinling, like a curious student, behaved obediently by her side. To onlookers, his demeanor only intensified their mockery. Chu Shouwen had never held a high opinion of Chu Jinling, and he retorted icily, "Ninth brother has truly disgraced us. As a dignified prince, has indulging himself in the company of women, seemingly indifferent to his reputation. If this were to become known to other nations, they might ridicule our great Cheng dynasty's princes to no end." "You find it amusing?" Chu Yihan's voice suddenly cut through the air. The weight of an iceberg seemed to press down upon Chu Shouwen. Chu Shouwen let out a disdainful snort. A significant portion of his resentment toward Chu Jinling stemmed from Chu Yihan. Given that both were 9 in their rankings, Chu Jinling had become Chu Yihan's shadow. Chu Yihan's relationship with his father was strained. He disregarded all the princes except for Chu Jinling. Despite Chu Jinling's lack of prowess in both literature and martial arts, a few words of praise from Chu Yihan each year garnered him a salary and rewards far surpassing those of his imperial brother. Chu Shouwen had even heard that Chu Yihan was planning to petition for a title on Chu Jinling's behalf. With both Chu Mingyuan and the Empress present today, Chu Zuwen's audacity grew. "Indeed, one find it amusing. Imperial uncle, what course of action do you intend to take?" Chu Yihan raised an eyebrow, a trace of mischief dancing at the corner of his eyes. "Then I shall help you extract that tooth first, and well let the civil officials decide whether their laughter is warranted." Chapter 144, Su Yingxue. Before Chu Shouwen could react, Mo Qi, who stood by Chu Yihan's side, appeared right in front of him. His movements were as swift as lightning, landing a powerful punch on Chu Zuwen's face. Chu Shouwen let out a startled cry as Mo Qi swiftly extracted one of his teeth, then promptly returned to Chu Yihan's side. Mo Qi placed the extracted tooth on Chu Yihan's table and spoke with utmost seriousness. "Master, this is a tooth from the third prince." Only when Chu Zuwen's mouth filled with blood did he realize that Chu Yihan's men had knocked out his tooth. He clutched his injured face and grumbled indignantly, "Ninth imperial uncle. What about me? Have you gained a few extra teeth?" Chu Yihan raised an eyebrow, his imposing aura making it difficult for anyone to catch their breath. Chu Shouwen turned his gaze toward his father. Chu Mingyuan's expression remained calm as if he was accustomed to Chu Yihan's audacious behavior. Chu Mingyuan looked at Chu Shouwen with a solemn expression. "Shouwen, Linga is your younger brother. As the eldest, you should be tolerant and magnanimous." With a missing tooth, Chu Shouwen had no choice but to swallow his anger and take a sip of wine. The fiery liquor burned his mouth's wound, causing him both pain and an inability to cry out. He could only endure it before everyone, the frustration growing. Chu Changye empathized with his third brother's plight, yet he understood the roles of subject and son. If his father chose not to pursue this matter, he, as a loyal subject, couldn't interfere. Otherwise, he might suffer the same fate as Chu Shouwen, losing a tooth. Moreover, his attention hadn't fully shifted from Su Yingxue yet. She seemed to be engaged in an unending conversation with Chu Jinling. Chu Jinling shared gossip with Su Yingxue. The Madam of the Minister of Rites is here today. She's an exceptionally astute and capable woman. She and the Madam of the Minister of Personnel have been close friends since childhood. Oh! Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow, her eyes revealing a hint of intrigue. She was aware that Madame Wu was standing nearby. So, that was the situation? Su Yingxue's lips curved into a sly smile as she lifted her cup, her gaze directed over Chu Jinling's shoulder. From her vantage point behind her, it appeared as if she had emptied her cup of tea and remained oblivious to any anomalies. A trace of venom flashed in Madame Wu's eyes. Su Yingxue. Just wait for what was coming today. Between Madame Wu and Su Yingxue, Su Yuro heard Madame Wu's words and couldn't help but show a hint of delight. She would finally be able to see Su Yingxue make a fool of herself, so she did not have to be anxious. After finishing his chat with Su Yingxue, Chu Jinling passed by Chu Mingyuan and went to greet him and his mother. His mother, noble consort Xiao, hailed from a prestigious family, boasting elders from 3 dynasties and esteemed officials and generals. Even within the harem, she held a respected position. Unable to tolerate Chu Zuwen's disparaging remarks about her son, she beckoned Chu Jinling over and questioned him loudly in front of everyone. "Linga, what did you and Miss Su talk about for so long? You're only coming to your mother and father now." Leaning against noble consort Xiao, Chu Jinling smiled with a radiant and dashing expression. "I admire Miss Su's medical expertise. We chatted about medical book contents. While I might not fully grasp them, Miss Su's explanations were enlightening. If I chat more with Miss Su, one might even find a way to cure mother's headaches. Oh, my dear Linga is such a filial child. Nothing like what others are saying, claiming that my Linga has tarnished the royal family's reputation." Noble consort Xiao embraced Chu Jinling and laughed heartily. From the angle that the Empress could see, she arrogantly raised her chin at the Empress, as if she was demonstrating her power. Chapter 145. You still dare to drink water? You have a son, and so do I. They were both princes, not the crown prince. Who could be more noble? Chu Jinling knew that his mother was always strong-willed but never forced him. So, in front of others, he never allowed his mother to lose face. Lai even took the opportunity to praise Su Yingxue in front of Chu Mingyuan, saying, "Father, Miss Su's medical skills are truly remarkable. Just look at Miss Lin's face. Many doctors couldn't help her, but Miss Su cured her. She's become so beautiful now." Chu Mingyuan, upon hearing this, looked at Lin Cixi. He remembered how unattractive Lin Aotian's daughter's face used to be. He sometimes even considered arranging a marriage for Lin Cixi, but the compatibility was lacking. But now, this young girl's face had improved significantly, and she seemed more lively. This is all thanks to Su Yingxue. Reward her. Chu Mingyuan waved his hand, and Lan Ling immediately brought a glass of wine to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue drank it publicly as a gesture of respect. From a corner visible to Chu Jinling, Su Yingxue blinked at him, as if saying, "A pleasant collaboration." "A pleasant collaboration," Chu Jinling whispered back, then bounced back to his seat. However, before he could even settle in, Mochi approached him. "Ninth Prince, Your Highness is summoning you. Can I sip water before I go?" Chu Jinling said helplessly. He had been hopping around like a cricket for half a day and was exhausted. Mochi didn't answer him. Instead, he took a step away and motioned for him to look at Chu Yihan's face. Such a good-looking face was now cold and dark. How dark was it? Chu Yihan seemed like saying, "You still dare to drink water?" Chu Jinling's legs wobbled, and he hurriedly rolled over to Chu Yihan's side. Su Yingxue observed, unaware of what Chu Jinling had said to Chu Yihan. While Chu Yihan's demeanor had been frosty and distant moments ago, once Chu Jinling left, it was as if the winter chill had melted away, replaced by warmth. Especially when Chu Yihan glanced her way, his eyes tender. Su Yingxue quickly lowered her head, feigning ignorance, not allowing anyone to notice the special connection when Chu Yihan looked at her. As she lowered her head, Chu Chengye perceived it as shyness. Chu Chengye still remembered the first time Su Yingxue confessed to him. She had just received a vase, an odd thing from somewhere, and she brought it to him, her voice crisp and tender. "Seventh Prince, you're so handsome. This is the prettiest one for you." Back then, it wasn't the vase that caught his attention, so he had no idea where that vase had ended up. What had captured his gaze was Su Yingxue's eyes, as pure as glass, and the beauty that had begun to bloom. Unfortunately, it had been a long time since she had smiled at him that way. Chu Chengye persisted, keeping his gaze on Su Yingxue. Finally, when Su Yingxue's eyes fell on him, he didn't see the adoration and shyness of a young girl. Instead, he saw indifference. Su Yingxue's gaze didn't linger, moving away as if she were looking through empty air. Chu Chengye clenched his fist, slamming it onto the table in frustration. Chu Xiuwen, who had been observing women, was suddenly brought back to reality. A sly smile curved his lips. "Seventh brother, don't be so impatient. It's just a woman. There are countless ways to win her over. Even if you want to bring her into the family and have some fun, there's no need to rush this moment." Though Chu Chengye wasn't as casual about matters of the heart as his third brother, Chu Zuwen's experience with women over the years made him highly attuned to their psychology. Following his advice wouldn't lead to any mistakes. Chapter 146. Incense and men are waiting for you. Chu Chengye nodded and lifted his wine glass. "Thank you for the reminder, third brother." The two brothers had a good drink. After the banquet, some stayed in the upper forest court to admire the scenery, while others returned to their quarters to rest. Some remained on the premises to warm up, preparing for the upcoming hunting competition. The spring banquet and the hunting ground competition were always highly anticipated events, like a captivating drama unfolding. Lin Sisi looked forward to this time the most. She pulled Su Yingxue along, eager to practice. "Dr. Su, come on, let's practice archery. You also come from a family of warriors, so your equestrian and archery skills must be impressive." Su Yingxue smiled, acknowledging the truth in Lin Sisi's words. She had a fondness for archery from a young age. Though she loved nothing else, she cherished riding and archery. Her grandfather was delighted to instruct her every day. However, she sensed that two pairs of eyes were fixated on her from behind. She touched her forehead, excusing herself. "The official competition starts tomorrow. This afternoon is just a warm-up. I had some wine at noon and need to rest a bit." 111 Come to find you later. "All right then, don't sleep for too long. Let's practice more and strive to impress those men with our equestrian and archery skills tomorrow." Lin Sisi's spirits were high, radiating a bold and resolute aura. Su Yingxue let her practice alone and headed toward her resting quarters. In order to satisfy the person behind her, she had a smile on her face and deliberately walked 2 steps before entering her room. Madame Wu watched Su Yingxue enter the room with a vicious look in her eyes. "Su Yingxue, you've harmed my 3 children. I'll make sure you die a miserable death today." She waited for half an hour. She thought that the spices and men she had arranged in Su Yingxue's room should have finished their effects. She planned to go and take a look and then make a commotion to let others discover her. However, just as she leaned against Su Yingxue's door and was about to listen for any movements, the door suddenly opened. Su Yingxue's fox-like face appeared before her eyes and enlarged. "Madame Wu, are you looking for me?" Madame Wu's jaw dropped in surprise. Before she could react, Su Yingxue pulled her inside. Su Yingxue flipped Madame Wu into her room. Both the incense and the man in her room were waiting for her. As a gesture of goodwill, Su Yingxue even collected ylang ylang from Medicine King Valley and placed it in her room. When the aroma of the ylang ylang and the incense combined, the effect was meant to achieve what Madame Wu desired. However, she intended to let Madame Wu savor this effect at her own pace. "All, you two. Look closely and see who 1 a.m. No fooling around. 1 help. Master, please save me. Come down." Madame Wu's anguished cries quickly attracted a crowd. This kind of matter fell under the jurisdiction of Lin Qin, the Minister of Rites. When he noticed the unusual situation in Su Yingshu's room, he was taken aback. However, the commotion was so significant that even Lin Aotian became aware of it. With the arrival of a straightforward military man like him, even if he intended to help Wu Hongtao conceal the situation, it was no longer possible. Lin Aotian came to assess the situation and brought Madame Wu and the other two men to Chu Mingyuan. Chu Mingyuan had just finished his afternoon nap and was planning to visit the hunting ground. Lin Aotian grabbed them and brought them in front of him. Chu Mingyuan frowned immediately. What's going on? An event as grand as the spring banquet should not be marred by such a scandalous scene. Lin Aotian reported honestly, Emperor, these three individuals were found engaging in improper behavior in one of the rooms. The commotion was quite significant. This woman is the wife of Minister Wu from the Ministry of Personnel. I've brought them here to seek your judgment. Chapter 147. I want to put on a sack and beat them up. Chu Mingyuan's expression darkened. Go fetch Wu Hongtao. Have him take his wife away. As for these two, execute them. Lin Aotian nodded and replied, I will carry out your command. Chu Mingyuan's pleasant mood for the afternoon was shattered. The spring banquet is such a grand event, and yet these individuals engaged in such vile behavior. Lin Qin is also at fault for not noticing. Lin Qin trembled and knelt. Please spare me, Emperor. I acknowledge my wrongdoing. Forget it. Go back and reflect on your actions. Leave the matter of the Ministry of Rites to Ye. With a flick of his sleeve, Chu Mingyuan walked away into the forest. Su Yingxue blended into the crowd, a cool smile curling her lips. She thought to herself that Chu Mingyuan truly valued Chu Changye. Chu Changye had indeed reaped unexpected benefits from her actions. But she wouldn't allow him to have it so easily. At the archery practice field, she found the spirited Lin Cece. Her arrows soared like meteors, swift, precise, and relentless. Each arrow hit the bullseye, leaving the nearby practicing princes and young masters in awe. When Lin Cece saw Su Yingxue approaching, she greeted her enthusiastically with her bow. Dr. Su, are you feeling better? Do you want to practice archery together? Oh, one heard from father that something happened in your room. Are you all right? Su Yingxue shook her head. It's not me who's in trouble, and one wasn't even in the room. That's good. Lin Cece was candid, not overthinking the situation. Instead, she kept inviting Su Yingxue to practice archery and even proposed teaming up for the competition, aiming to win the emperor's reward. Su Yingxue understood that the most significant part of the spring banquet was the hunting competition, where teams competed to hunt the most game. Those who achieved the most would be rewarded. And those who hunted formidable beasts like lions, black bears, or tigers would receive additional prizes. In the past, no one had been willing to partner with Lin Cece, so she had never won. This time, she wanted to team up with Su Yingxue, secure the reward, and simultaneously show those who had been unwilling to join forces with her before just how capable she was. Su Yingxue agreed immediately. However, she frowned and pretended to be thinking. The emperor's rewards are enticing, but there's a grudge one need to address. It's not something that can be substituted by rewards. Do you want to vent your anger, Dr. Su? I can help you give him a beating. Lin Cece eagerly flexed her fists. But, recalling her father's advice, she cocked her head and suggested, my father said I shouldn't cause a scene here. But if you want to take out your frustration, we could secretly tie a sack around that person and give him a good thrashing. He's a prince. Beating him up would indeed be letting him off too easily. Su Yingxue sighed. If other noble ladies heard about her intention to beat up a prince, they would have distanced themselves from her in an instant. However, Lin Cece's eyes brightened. Dr. Su, which prince do you want to beat up? Is it the third prince? A faint smile appeared on Su Yingxue's lips. I want to deal with his younger brother, the seventh prince. I want to beat the third prince. Dr. Su, how about this? At the banquet tonight, when they're tipsy, we could discreetly tie them up and give them a sound beating. As Lin Cece spoke, she rubbed her palms together. She wished she could use a gunny sack to tie Chu Xiuan up right now. This method is not practical. If we beat them up and investigate them, it will be your father General Lin's dereliction of duty. Lin Cece suddenly understood. You're right. We mustn't implicate my father. But, seeing the frustrated expression on her face, Su Yingxue reassured her, we'll come up with another plan. Chapter 148. Challenging the Prince. What kind of solution? Dr. Su, you might not know, but Chu Xiuwen is a despicable person. He uses his status as a prince to bully women everywhere. One couldn't stand it and scolded him a few times before, and he publicly humiliated me in return. He even mocked me for being ugly and unworthy of speaking to him. He looks down on me because of my lower status, but I can't bear to see him living so carefree despite his playboy behavior. Lin Cece clenched her teeth, her heart burdened by this pent-up anger for a long time. Su Yingxue coldly chuckled. Naturally, he doesn't deserve such carefree living. So, we're not only going to slap him, but we'll also make him experience the humiliation has subjected others to. Lin Cece's eyes lit up, showing great interest in listening to Su Yingxue's plan. Once they were ready, they rode into the forest. Today, they could only linger around the forest's edge. The official hunting within the forest would commence tomorrow. When Lin Cece and Su Yingxue saw Chu Xiuwen wandering around the entrance of the forest, they immediately rode their horses over. Lin Cece's horse blocked Chu Zuwen's path, and she pointed her bow at him, shouting, "Hey, are you brave enough to be our opponent in the hunt tomorrow?" Chu Xiuwen raised an eyebrow, a hint of disdain in his tone. Lin Cece, have your face and courage both improved? You haven't even bothered to look in the mirror before going out. You're nothing more than a slightly better-looking toad. You're the toad. Lin Cece shot an arrow directly at him. Her precise archery caused the arrow to strike even as Chu Xiuwen attempted to dodge, grazing a strand of his hair. Chu Zuwen's humiliation quickly turned into anger. Lin Cece, you're asking for death. He had always treated women as mere playthings, and their resistance was something he could not tolerate. He would crush them to assert his dominance. Lin Cece had been a constant target of his humiliation, and now she dared to openly challenge him. Third Prince, Miss Lin is merely here for a challenge. If you dare not accept, then say so. It's quite uncouth to resort to curses like this. Su Yingxue sighed softly. Her words were like a spark igniting the fury within Chu Xiuwen. He pointed an arrow at Su Yingxue. What did you say? This prince is uncouth. Su Yingxue, perhaps I should ask your father, the Marquis of Marshall South, about your upbringing. Ah, Third Prince, why do you have to question my father when we are fighting as equals? Or do you want me to go discuss your upbringing with the Emperor? While anyone else might tremble in fear, Su Yingxue's mention of Chu Mingyuan scared Chu Xiuwen, not her. Chu Xiuwen wished he could tear her mouth apart. Chu Chengyes's face darkened as he intervened. Su Yingxue, Lin Cece, if you want to enter the hunting grounds, then hunt fairly. There's no need for challenges. But we specifically want to challenge you. Seventh Prince, are you too afraid to accept the challenge? Lin Cece coldly snorted. She was just like Chu Xiuwen, born from the same mother. There was nothing commendable about him. You. Chu Chengyes's handsome face tensed. He didn't want to stand against Su Yingxue. He still remembered how well Su Yingxue had treated him in the past and wanted to treat her more leniently. Your Highness, sister is upset. You gave me the riding attire first, and you only gave it to her today. Please, for Rao's sake, don't be angry with sister. Su Yuro suddenly appeared, bowing slightly. She moved gracefully, her voice melodious. Even Chu Xiuwen couldn't help but cast a few more glances her way and praised, "This is the model of a Marquis Manner's daughter. Su Yingxue, you should learn from your sister and avoid mingling with toads like Lin Cece, who keep their gaze confined to a well." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.